Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. And speaking about all sorts of good stuff, as I mute my other computer, as we're speaking about all sorts of other good stuff, we are joined, of course, by actress. She's my dear friend, Miss Erin Cummings. Erin, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm great. Thanks to Chris Carr for picking me up a little latte on the way here. That was a nice text message to receive this morning.
That was
Thanks, Chris.
super sweet of her.
Super sweet.
I must have lost my text message, but anyway, here's
Oh,
Chris
ouch,
Carr.
I've got receipts. We Texas girls have to stick together, though. I've got to make sure we're both caffeinated to keep up with you, John.
Absolutely.
Oh, nice save. Nice save. All right, listen, guys, we do have a whole bunch of stuff that we need to talk about here today. We're going to be talking about... It sounds like we're getting some more details about what Ben Affleck's Batman actually might have looked like, and I think it sounds pretty damn good. The Boys is a fantastic show, but Amazon forced the showrunner to take one scene out of the movie. Which scene was that? Should opening credits in movies make a comeback? Disney Television is now officially running things creatively over at Hulu. That and a few things more, but let's go right off the top with this. Now, obviously, biggest movie now of all time is Avengers Endgame. Now, I loved Avengers Endgame, as a lot of people did, but, you know, I don't stick my head in the sand like an ostrich and just go, I don't see any of the problems. It's a movie that's filled with a lot of logic holes. Let's just say that. It's filled with a lot of logic problems. But logic problems that, for the most part, we just go, whatever, we can overlook that, because the result of the logic problems they delivered was some really damn good entertainment. One of the questions that a lot of people brought up and talk about is, you know, when Cap, near the end of the movie, goes back to start returning all the stones is, well, wait a minute, when he returns a soul stone, wouldn't he come face to face with Red Skull again? Oh my gosh, how would that have happened? Now, to be frank with you, I've always thought that was a big problem, because if he's supposed to put the stones back exactly where they're supposed to be, nobody knows where the Soul Stone was. Remember? You know, like in Infinity War, we had Thanos just wake up in the middle of a lake and it's sitting there in his hand. Same thing with Hawkeye. So how on earth would he know where the stone goes? Anyway, just another little logic problem. But anyway, Endgame is now out on home video. And during the directors and writers commentary, a conversation came up specifically about, well, wouldn't Cap have to come face to face with Red Skull, which is something a lot of people have talked about. Now, this is a report from Coming Soon about that director's commentary that you can now get. It's online and available. It says, on the commentary track for Endgame, writers Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely were asked by co-director Anthony Russo their thoughts on this would-be event about, you know, Cap maybe bumping into Red Skull. Apparently, it's not something they even talked about. He would have to, said McFeely, with Marcus adding that he had thought about this inevitability many times. The pair speculated that with the Soul Stone not on Vormir anymore, would the Red Skull still be there? McFeely wasn't so sure, but before the discussion continued, the Russo brothers interrupted and saying, I guess it's fun to think about. And the conversation then moved on. So here's the one big thing that stands out to me. On top of the fact that, yes, everybody's wondering, would Cap have met Red Skull as an inevitability? One of the things that really stands out to me is the fact that, quite frankly, the fact that the directors even had to ask the question, they didn't even think about this. And that, to me, is kind of synonymous with a lot of the stuff that happens in Endgame. Again, these little logic problems that I overlook because the movie's so much fun. But it's like, oh yeah, that would have been a problem. Whatever. And they don't even think about it. They just move on. It's like Cap's Tarkin the Wasp. Okay, make sure we give her cover. We're on it, Cap. Wait a minute, where these fucking magic earpieces come from? I didn't see anybody handing out earpieces, did you? Just little problems like that. They think of this really cool stuff, but they don't actually think it through. And the funny thing here is it looks like they didn't even give it a moment of thought. Now listen, it's understandable that a lot of people would have loved to have seen a scene where Captain America and Red Skull actually come face to face. Count me among them. That would have been really, really cool. But anyway, this is pretty neat. When you think about this, Erin, does it make just as much sense that they didn't bother showing us all that stuff? And what do you think about the fact that they actually have this major story point of Captain America having to return all the stones, but they never actually gave any thought about how logically would that work. I don't know. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think that in the same reason why we also never saw anyone going to the bathroom or even saying, hey, I'm going to take a minute here. I mean, you never see people going to the bathroom in movies. Not even, you don't need to see them physically in the act, but just being like, hey, I'll be right back. I just have to go to the bathroom. Like, nobody does that. So I think that there is a suspension of disbelief when you're watching any film. And also when you're watching a film, I mean, let's be honest, it's not like we take Avengers Endgame or any of the supernatural or superhero movies. It's not like we take them at their word that this is exactly what happened. It's all a suspension of disbelief. So there does come a certain point where you just have to go, well, maybe that doesn't make exact sense, but it fits in the story. I still get it. I also would have loved to see that. But there's a part of me that kind of goes, I hope that Red Skull is not still there. I feel like once that Soul Stone is out, like that he's maybe served his penance, his time, and he gets to like go and redeem himself somewhere else, or has to sit in a self-help group, or I don't know. I hope that he's off somewhere just creating a better life for himself.
Chris, when you hear about this, do you have any sort of reaction to it?
I mean, it was one of those things when we watched it that I was like, how's that going to work? I don't care. I don't know.
And then, who cares? Look at all the portals opening.
This is really nifty.
That's
I'm
what
so
happened to me
excited
too.
about it. I like Aaron's idea of Red Skull going off for redemption. I really hope there's a crossover universe with Inglourious Bastards where he comes across Aldo and he's like, well, you don't have a scalp, but let's see what we can do here.
Ooh, there's a crossover. Red Skull Dead Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Video game and movie crossover. I love it.
Boom.
Question, guys, is what do you think about all that? Hearing that it's not even something they really fleshed out. Does it not really matter at all? Does it make you go, that's interesting? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move into our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really kind of simple. See, you guys come up with our main topics by going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get there, you're going to see a form. Fill out that form with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to our first main topic today. Chris, what is our first main topic today?
Our first topic is coming from Vital Machine. Hi, John. Yet another effect of the Disney takeover has popped up. Just read that Disney Television has officially taken over the original shows on Hulu. It said Disney TV is now fully responsible for, quote, development and commissioning for Hulu's original comedies and drama series. I sort of thought that they'd still have autonomy to function on their own. Is this a good or bad move? And should we be worried for Handmaid's Tale, Castle Rock, and Runaways? Do you think this is going to be a good thing for Hulu?
Well, I mean, one of the really interesting things about the whole takeover of Disney of Fox was by Disney owning Fox. Remember, Hulu was owned by a lot of different studios. They have multiple owners, right? And Disney was one of the primary shareholders. Fox was one of the primary shareholders. Comcast was one of the primary shareholders. By Disney taking over Fox, as a result of that, now owning Fox, they were now a majority owner in Hulu. And since then, Comcast has just agreed to sell over their remaining stake in Hulu over to Disney, basically giving Disney complete control over Hulu and what they're going to do. And we all know that Bob Iger's got a lot of plans for Disney Plus and Hulu. You know, the more adult stuff over to Hulu, the more family-friendly stuff over to Disney Plus, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But much likened unto Disney buys Lucasfilm, well, Lucasfilm kind of still runs its own division, even though they report to and they have to answer to and take direction from Disney. They own Marvel. But they let Kevin Feige, as the president of Marvel, still kind of run that thing, although he does have to answer to and take direction from Alan Horn over at Disney. Same thing with Pixar, same thing with whatever. Would they kind of be free to do their own thing? Well, they kind of still do in a way. Because what happened here is that they've made it kind of clear that the creative guys behind the stuff at Hulu, they themselves are still kind of running the show. It's just that now they answer to different bosses. So the creative executive vice president over at Hulu in charge of programming and stuff like that, he still has his job. He's still there. The only difference is that now, like Marvel under Disney, where Kevin Feige has to now report to Alan Horn, now this guy's going to have to report to the head of Disney Television. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. So there is a lot of that right there. And so to a degree, Hulu is still being run by the Hulu creatives. It's just that now they're going to be getting a different set of marching orders to whichever degree Disney decides to get involved from somebody else rather than, the former CEO of Hulu. Anyway, Aaron, you hear about this. Do you think something like this is an opportunity for Hulu? Do you think is this something that people who are fans of Hulu original programming should be worried about? Is it something we should be excited about? What do you make of this whole move?
Well, first of all, I want to say happy birthday to Ray, who did that awesome Disney Handmaid's Tale graphic. Happy birthday, Ray. I mean, there's nothing that man can't do. But also, I am a little worried. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think that we have to worry about current programming such as Handmaid's Tale, Castle Rock, Catch-22, The Runaways. Those shows are going to stay as they are because clearly they're working. And so they're going to continue giving the people what they want. What I'm concerned about is other shows that come down the pipeline. Yes, the person in charge of programming still has his job, but as you said, he's reporting to a new boss now. And so when a new show comes up, let's say that Handmaid's Tale wasn't based on a book and you're just describing this dystopian future where women are being forced as sexual slavery for infertile couples, like that's some really dark stuff going on. Does Disney, the more that they are publicly connecting themselves with the Hulu brand, do they want that to be something that they are connected with, something that's the content that's a little bit darker? I don't know. I don't think so. So my concern is not for the existing shows, but more the void of those dark, gritty shows that we've come to love on Hulu, even being an option in the future. That's where my concern lies.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why I don't think we need to worry about that part of it right now is because of the fact that Bob Iger said they want to do R-rated stuff. It's just that the R-rated stuff isn't going to be under their family-friendly brands like Marvel, like Disney proper. If they're going to have some R-rated stuff, might put it over under the Fox banner and stuff like that. And I think the whole reason they want to control Hulu while having their own, well, I mean, Hulu's there, so they're both their own, but they've got this Disney Plus thing launching, and they've got Hulu. I think they specifically want to have Hulu so they can have programming like Handmaid's Tale or The Boys, which is on Amazon. But I'm just saying, for an example, The Boys. I think that gives them the freedom because Bob Iger's always worried about sending a clear, unconfusing message to his customers and to his fans. And that's, hey, if you come see a Marvel movie, an MCU movie, you know what you're going to get. This is for the whole family, blah, blah, blah. But if they don't put the Marvel label on it or the MCU label on it, if they don't say this is on Disney Plus, which is for the whole family, this is over on Hulu, I think that gives them a lot more freedom to explore heavier stuff, more adult stuff. Because, they had, what didn't they have? They had Touchstone Pictures for a long time, right? And they used to put out like heavier, dark stuff under Touchstone. I think this gives them an outlet for that.
I hope so. I don't know, though, because, 10 years ago when Paul Lee went from ABC Family to head of ABC programming, the slate of ABC programming definitely went lighter. So I hope that you are correct. I really do, because I love Hulu for being dark and gritty and telling more R-rated stories, and I want it to stay that way. I will remain cautiously optimistic then. I'll follow your lead, John, but I don't know. I'm not so sure about it.
There's also prestige thing. I mean, like Handmaid's Tale's won tons of Emmys.
Absolutely.
And blah, blah. So hopefully hopefully I'm right about that, but we'll see. What do you guys think about this? Is Disney now officially exerting their control over Hulu an exciting development? Is it a worrying development? What are your thoughts on this? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to our second main topic today. Chris, what is our second main topic today?
Now we're hearing from Dana. Do you know why most modern movies don't have opening credits, let alone even have the title of the film at the beginning? I think nothing sets the mood of the film and sucks the audience into the movie after trailers than good opening credits. I don't know. It's almost been a decade since movies had stopped having opening credits, and I still miss them. John, do you miss opening credits? Do you think we need those again?
Nope. Nope. I always thought they were stupid wastes of time. Now, don't get me wrong. Artistically speaking, there are opening credits that are iconic. Whether you're talking about something like James Bond, or you're talking about the opening of Christopher Reeve's Superman with starring so, there are some very artistic, but they're pointless and useless. As my father would say, useless as tits on a bull. They are completely without function. They have no purpose. And I still remember when I watched Die Hard, which one was it with Samuel Jackson? Was that Die Hard 3? I think that might have been Die Hard 3. Maybe it was Die Hard 4. I can't remember. I lost track of the numbers. But the one with Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson, I remember that movie just starting with music playing, a couple of shots of the city, and then an explosion. And it's like, this movie's just starting. It's just like jumping right in. And I just thought that was the greatest thing ever. Look, on things like television, you get the opening credits and stuff like that on TV, right? Like one of the more celebrated ones, Game of Thrones, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? There's a reason. For those of you who have Netflix, and I know you all do, there's a reason now when you watch television shows on Netflix, Netflix pops up that big option on your screen, skip credits? Hell yes. That's why they know people don't want credits. They don't care about credits. Credits don't serve any purpose. Get rid of them. Now, look, I'm not saying I don't want credits in a movie. I'm not saying let's make sure we give, we highlight people who are part of a movie and contribute. That's why you have end credits. That's why I sit through a lot of credits in the movie, because I like seeing who's involved and the amount of people involved. But when a movie starts, let the movie start. It's the beginning, middle, and end. Credits are not part of the story. Credits are not part of the movie. I don't care about them. I want them gone. Never bring them back. Their day has come and gone like that of the rotary telephone, ladies and gentlemen. Do not bring them back. It's a dumb idea. And I'm sure everybody in this room agrees with me 100%. Right, Aaron?
To quote Bernie Sanders in the recent Democratic primary, you're wrong. You are wrong, John. I cannot actually believe that as a lover of film that you said that. Because, first of all, they're absolutely opening credits serves a purpose. It sets the tone. It gets the audience ready. It's like a primer. It's kind of like when you go in for a massage and they just put their hands on your back and they tell you to breathe. They're getting you ready for all the beautiful that's about to come. So,
That's quite a picture you just painted.
I mean, I'm a big fan of massages. What can I say? Okay. I challenge you to go to YouTube and watch the opening credits for Grease, for example. Now, Grease, whether you watch that movie in 1982 or in 2022, from the very first moment that it starts, it has that animated shot of John Travolta's animated character squeezing a grease tube and combing the grease through his hair, and then the word grease spelled out on the screen, and then that turning into a car. So immediately we know, grease refers to hair grease, car grease, greasers. And then it shows that John Travolta's this badass who likes to put his grease through his hair. And then it says Danny, John Travolta as Danny. And then it shows Olivia Newton-John as this woman getting up and she's talking to the birds and the deer as Sandy. You see exactly who these characters are. And by the end of the credits, you know who the T-Birds are, you know who the Pink Ladies are, and you are dancing in your seat and you're ready for a movie musical. It absolutely sets the tone. I think that we have to have opening credits. And also, just to challenge your idea on why you get the option of skipping opening credits in TV shows, it's because once you've seen it the first time, you don't need to see it every single episode. But I do want to watch the opening credits. And I'm sad that we don't have opening credits for most of the TV shows anymore. I also challenge anyone out there to go back and watch an episode of One Day at a Time or Good Times or The Jeffersons and not dance in your seats and really feel the emotion, the excitement of what was going on at that time. I also encourage all of you to go on YouTube and find Bitch Slap Movie, and you will see the opening credits, which are phenomenal. And they were edited by a pre-Oscar winning, pre-Emmy winning TJ Martin. So, John, I love you, but I completely disagree with you. Bring on the opening credits. Bring on the opening credits in TV. Bring on the opening credits in film. I am sad that they are going away, and I will go back and watch good opening credits any day.
See, now, opening montages to set up the story that you're watching, I'm down for those, but you can do those without incorporating 40 different names coming in and blah, 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 or only putting in a montage because you need a placeholder to put in the openings. But I don't know. We have two different points of view on that. Chris.
That's the tone.
Be our tiebreaker here. Do you think that they should have a comeback for opening credits?
I mean, to Aaron's point about musicals, yeah, I do like that in place of like the overture that you experience when you're at a Broadway play, right, in person. I'm not missing them. I really don't miss having opening credits. And also on TV shows, okay, if you guys are as obsessed with Law & Order SVU as I am, you know, when you're watching the opening credits, which are great, like the Dawn song is wonderful, but then when you see everyone's names and you see that special guest star is someone wicked famous, you're like, that's going to be who the pedophile is. I already know. What a bummer. So sometimes the casting ruins stuff for me. So I don't feel like I need it. That being said, Napoleon Dynamite's opening credits, those are really cool. I really like things that have an aesthetic to the credits, not just, scrolling names.
Well, yeah, I agree. I don't want to see scrolling names, but when they're done well, I love them.
Yeah, don't get. I'm not trying to besmirch the artistic merit that gets put behind through, again, like James Bond, one of the most iconic kind of opening credit for sure. But does the movie miss anything if they're gone? I don't think so. But the question is, do you guys think that opening credits should make a comeback in movies? And that just so happens to be the topic of today's question of the day. And the question of the day is simply that. Should there be a comeback for opening credits in movies? I want you to go over to my Twitter. You can just see my Twitter address right there, simply at John Campea. And you'll see at the top post is the question asking you that. Is it that? I actually put up this poll just before we started the show here today. So let's go over and take a look and see what we got. As of right now, about 1,000 of you have voted. And right now, 43% of you are saying yes for opening credits. And 57% of you are saying no, leave them out. No. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot more of you voting yes than I thought. I thought this would be like 80-20. But at least it's good to know the majority of you out there have the good common sense that the Lord blessed you with when you were born. But no, I mean, that's the thing. Look, there's some great artistic stuff in there. What do you guys make of all that? Are you somebody who's like me, it's like, nah, man, just get into the movie, save credits for later? Or are you like, man, there's such great artistic stuff in there. It sets a tone. Have these things in here again. Jump down into the comments section below and let us know what you think, and I'll go back and check on that voting poll again a little bit later. All right, with all that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our third main topic today. Chris, which is our third main topic today?
Third topic is coming from Kevin Crutchfield. Caught an article on that 3-time Academy Award-winning cinematographer Robert Richardson shed some light on what would have happened in the Ben Affleck Batman. In a recent episode of the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, Richardson revealed that the movie would have explored both Arkham and the darker side of Batman. Not gonna lie, this sounds like an incredible story and would have been perfect for the Batfleck. I'm left wondering, what if? How about you?
Okay, look, let's just get this out of the way, okay? Everybody knows I'm a Ben Affleck guy, okay? I've been a fan of Ben Affleck for a long time. I was one of the only people on the planet when they first announced his casting as Batman that I thought it was terrific, fantastic news and celebrating and all that kind of stuff. I believe he gave us the best iteration of Batman. Not the best Batman movie, but the best iteration of the character of Batman we've ever seen. And I don't think there's a bigger Batman fan in the upper elite Hollywood circles than Ben Affleck. I was dying to see Ben Affleck's movie. Now, hey, if he's going to be gone, hey, Matt Reeves is a great replacement. He is. And I'm looking forward to Matt Reeves' movie. But make no mistake about it, I wanted a Ben Affleck Batman movie written, directed, and starring Ben Affleck. That's what I wanted to see. So keep that in mind as I give kind of my thoughts on this. Where's all this coming from? Well, here's the actual quote coming from the cinematographer, Robert Richardson. This is specifically what he had to say. Well, talking about Ben and what he was going to do, he was going more into the insanity aspects. So I think you would have seen something darker than what we've seen in the past and more into the individual who was inside Batman. What element may be sane and what element may actually not be sane? So he was entering into a little more of the Arkham. As you know, he's going into where you keep everyone who was bad, everyone that shifted, and Batman. And so that whole aspect was it was very fascinating to go to the darker side of Batman. Now, this comes on the heels a few months ago. One of the guys over at Warner Brothers who works on a lot of the Warner Brothers animated stuff said they read the Ben Affleck Batman script, saying it was the best script they've ever seen for anything involving Batman before, all this kind of stuff. Now we hear about this, saying that was going to go into the Arkham stuff. That, for a lot of fans, is like catnip, you guys, because a lot of people have been wanting to see, because the Arkham games are very popular. A lot of people have been dying to see stuff with Arkham, whether it's reflective of the games, the Batman Arkham games, or whether something else. But what really stands out to me is this was something that was going to be a darker look at Batman than we've probably ever had before. And I could totally understand why a lot of fans would look at that and just kind of smile, but then also cry a little bit inside that we're never going to get this movie, which is really sad and unfortunate. Still looking forward to Matt Reeves' movie. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely looking forward to Matt Reeves' movie. But the more and more I hear about this Ben Affleck Batman movie, the more and more I weep a little bit inside about what might have been. Anyway, Aaron, you hear this quote, you see this whole thing. Is it just as well that we've moved on from Batman, or do you think this is going to leave people a little bit more upset that we're not getting that vision of Batman?
I absolutely think that people are going to be upset, and rightly so, especially with this new insane look at Joker. Well, getting into the psychology of Joker that we're going to be able to see. It would be a really nice comparison to have those two sort of side by side or coming out within a relatively short time span of each other. And also, it does make me sad for Ben Affleck, someone who is such a champion of Batman. For him, I'm sure that no doubt, like many people, grew up dreaming about Batman and the possibility of being able to play that, and then having that opportunity, and then seeing that opportunity go away for whatever reason. I did read, though, that there were people who had big problems with the script. So, I mean, do you know, maybe you know more about that than I do? I was reading last night that there were some issues, issues.
I never did hear about anybody having any problems with the script. I only ever heard that it was actually really good, and that the issues was a falling out between Ben and Warner Brothers at the time. But
I'll try to find what I read. But so I'm glad to hear that. And you know what? I mean, I don't know. Maybe this means that there's a possibility that somewhere down the road that could happen. I don't know. I don't personally want to see Ben Affleck going down the insane road. I would love to see him directing that. I think he's a phenomenal director. I would love to see Ben Affleck maybe directing Robert Pattinson down the insane road of Batman. I just don't know if I want to see Ben Affleck playing that.
Is that mixing a little bit of a little too home with the issues had in the real world as opposed to that? Or
you know what, I don't know, maybe it is we know so much about Ben Affleck the human that it's hard for me to separate the two, and I don't know. My first instinct was I don't want to see Ben Affleck playing that. I have a lot of respect for him, like I said, as a director and as an actor in certain ways, and maybe this was his desire to show himself in a different way, but I also think that for him to take on the role of actor, director, and writer, and to go so far outside of his wheelhouse as an actor, I think that you have to have a separate director coming in. I don't think that you can direct yourself when you're having such a departure in character. Directing yourself when you're playing a character that you have played before, that you have an understanding of, that's one thing, but I would be more interested in seeing Ben Affleck go down that character road with another director in the process.
What do you think about this, Chris? Like, you hear about this. Is this something, how do you think people are going to react to this, and how do you react to it?
Oh, man, I'm so bummed that we're not getting this, because I love the Batfleck. I've been waiting for almost my whole life for that Frank Miller short-eared cowl design. I was in love with that. I love the Arkham Asylum game, the Grant Morrison comics, which it was inspired by. And so delving into that, I mean, Batman is such a great rogues gallery, and Arkham is such a messed up place. And if you've played the Arkham game or read any of that other stuff, you kind of know about all of the psychosis issues in that. Were really, really great and really well explored. So seeing that on film would have been really, really cool. I really loved him as Batman and as Bruce Wayne. I thought he did a great, great job. I think the careful line you have to walk, though, on a Batman story, especially when you're going into any insanity or darkness there. What always made Batman interesting to me was that Bruce Wayne was the mask, right?
Right.
Like, he has a whole thing, and I think it's one of the Justice League cartoons, and they do it also in a panel where he's like waiting for the sun to go down. He, in his head, doesn't call himself Bruce. He calls himself Batman. And those are the things that I think are very, very interesting. When you get more Michael Keaton, you want to see crazy, I'll show you crazy. As much as I love Michael Keaton, that's not Batman's thing. He is a detective. He is calculated. He is supposed to be one of the best physical specimens of what humans can do once they push themselves. So I think you have to walk a really fine line of, he can't be this balls to the wall whack job. You know, there's also some things that have influenced who he is, but I think his rogues gallery is what needs to be really, really crazy. So that's what I would be interested in learning about from reading the script, is if they were able to walk that line. Because as a Batman fan, that's what's important to me.
And it was that line that I loved his performance in Batman versus Superman as Batman, because I go on this all the time, and I'm so glad you brought it up, is that what most Batman iterations don't get is that Batman is not the mask. Bruce Wayne is the mask. Bruce Wayne effectively died in that alley with his parents when he was a child and the Batman was born. And there's something about the performance of Ben Affleck in Batman vs. Superman, not so much Justice League, but in Batman vs. Superman, he got that and he channeled that. And that's one of the reasons why I loved it so much. And it would have been interesting to see him go down that path. Question is, guys, what do you think about this news? Are you just like, nah, it wouldn't have made any difference? Or does it just make you really, really lament the fact that we're not getting a Ben Affleck Batman? Or are you just so excited about the Matt Reeves Batman that's coming that it's really much ado about nothing to you? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to the fourth main topic today. Chris, what is our fourth main topic today?
Oh, this is an exciting one. All right, Eric Mansfield writes, I thought The Boys was effing amazing. I know it was a bit toned down from the comic, but I was still amazed by how much they still did in the show. Wondering if you saw what the showrunner said was the one thing Amazon made him take out of the show. Holy schniz. That would have been just bonkers. Do you think they should have left it in? Thanks. That scene was messed up. What do you think, John?
Okay, so what many of you are probably asking yourselves is, what scene was that? Now, The Boys is on Amazon Prime right now. I binged the entire first season in one day. I started watching it after I finished an episode of the John Campea Show. I wrapped up at 2 a.m. in the morning. I love the show. I absolutely loved it. I mean, it is what it is. It is a show unto itself, and I had a good time. And they do some pretty bonkers stuff in it. Now, I don't think this gives anything away, that what we're going to read, but basically, Eric Kripke, who was I Will Forever Be in Debt because he created Supernatural, which is one of my all-time favorite shows, probably in my top 5, 6, or 7 favorite shows of all time. Anyway, he was the showrunner of this, and he was saying like, hey, Amazon let us do whatever we wanted to do, except one thing. Here's the one thing that Amazon said, this is too far. This is what they said, and this is what Eric said, Kripke said. There was one scene that Amazon said, fuck no, you have to cut it. I couldn't quite understand why, considering everything else we had seen in the show, but Homelander, the main hero of the 7, after being dressed down by Stillwell in episode 2, was standing on one of the Chrysler Building Eagles. He pulled his pants down and started jerking off, mumbling, I can do whatever I want, over and over again until he climaxed all over New York City. We shot it. Oh my God, Anthony was the best in that scene. Amazon seemed to think it wasn't necessary. Now, of course, remember, Eric then goes on to say, hey, Amazon was awesome to work with. That was the only thing they forced me to take out of it. And if you've seen The Boys, you're like, yeah, that's totally in character with Homelander. And I got to admit, I probably would have laughed myself sick. I mean, for those of you who have seen Doom Patrol, you know what I'm talking about when I say I flexed the wrong muscle. Now, for those of you who haven't seen Doom Patrol, you don't know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who have seen Doom Patrol, I flexed the wrong muscle. You know what I'm talking about. And while you could make an argument that if you came to me about that scene in Doom Patrol and saying, was that really necessary? I would say probably no. But having seen it, I'm like, oh my God, it's one of the most memorable things to ever happen in the show. And you know what? I'm going to spoil what happens in the scene. If you haven't seen, this isn't a plot thing. It's just, so there's this one superhero, there's this one hero guy, power guy named Flex. And he basically can do, it's hard to describe what it is, like telekinetic, also like a lot of different powers by flexing different muscles in his massive body. And he's trying to open up a portal into a different dimension. He goes, all right, just give me a minute while I flex. And he strikes this muscular pose. And all of a sudden, all the heroes and all the people walking around the street start to come. They all start to have a massive orgasm. And they all start yelling and screaming in the streets, and it ends with, I flexed the wrong muscle. Anyway, this scene, while I'm sitting here without having seen it going, yeah, I can see why Amazon wanted that pulled. The idea of Homelander jizzing over an entire city it might have become one of those moments that we all talked about. I mean, so I don't know. On the one hand, I can see why Amazon pulled it, but on the other hand, I wonder if it would not have become like one of the big talked about moments in the show. I don't know. Aaron, you watched The Boys, so you know the tone of the show and everything. Does Amazon do the right thing by pulling the scene out?
No, it's ridiculous. See, this is my issue with the hypocrisy of censorship. Is that in the first episode, and I'm not spoiling anything because it's been written in every episode, in every article about it, we see a woman literally dismembered at the wrist. We see, and I there's so many things I can't even go into detail because I don't want them to be spoilers, but we see such intense graphic violence towards women and men and and children. Like, terrible things are happening in this, and yet the insinuation, it wouldn't be like they would even show up, the insinuation of masturbation is like, oh heavens, let's clutch our pearls and not show anything that has to do with a human sexuality. And I feel like that's the problem that we have, is that violence is totally embraced, it's absolutely fine, and then we have to censor Sarah Silverman's glorious nipples on Instagram, which doesn't make any sense to me. And yes, they are glorious. I saw them before they were censored. So I think that this absolutely is in line with a character. I think that having Homelander, especially after he just got berated and had his ego taken down a few pegs, he would go to the top of the Chrysler Building and he would masturbate all over the city. And I think it also shows something about, I firmly believe that Homelander is the most fascinating character in The Boys, especially as the series goes on.
When you learn more about his background.
When you learn more about his background and why he is the way that he is, this absolutely is in line. And I think that would have been a really good, a really exciting way to show that there was a lot more going on below the surface of him having to express in the most visceral way his ownership over everything and his prowess. And I think that it almost has an animalistic quality to it. But again, I go back to, we are totally fine with embracing the most horrifying violence, but anything that leans in the direction of sexuality, we have to censor it. And I also, the only thing that I can think of is that Anthony Starr's performance was maybe so captivating, convincing, exciting, perhaps titillating, perhaps to whoever was on the receiving end of the censorship board, that they thought that perhaps that's why it should be censored, in which case I would really like to get a copy of that scene, the deleted scene, if someone can on the black market that to me. I'll pay.
Chris, is this a scene they should have left in?
I think it would have been hilarious to leave it in. And also, if you're familiar with the comics, you guys, it's just gonna get worse.
Yeah, they go really far.
To quote Billy Butcher, it could get so much more terrible.
Right.
And if we're gonna do the hero-gasm arc later on, you're going to have to figure out how to censor all of that, y'all. I think this would have been really funny. And, as a fellow Italian, John, for us, when a bird poops on you, that's lucky, right? So if you get some soup goop on you, what is that?
Did you just call it soup goop?
I called it soup goop.
Hashtag soup goop.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Like, is that a same lucky situation? I don't know.
Okay,
is it like Compound V? Will I fly?
Did you just come up with that on the fly?
I did.
Soup goop?
Wow.
Thanks, groundlings.
You just gave like a whole bunch of dudes in LA a new pickup line in the bar.
Hey girl, you want some soup goop?
Soup goop?
Want some of my sweet soup goop?
Sorry about that soup goop.
If you see me in LA, don't say that one back to me. That'd be a weird one.
Don't soup goop Chris Carr.
Oh my God, soup goop. That's the new hashtag.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
Some of my sweet, delicious soup goop. Okay.
Between my drinking the Seagal juice and her soup goop, I think we pretty much got the male excretions
t-shirts
covered.
Oh my God.
T-shirts.
I don't see how we're gonna get back on track. Okay.
Why would we?
Okay. Anyway, guys, what do you think about that? I mean, personally, I'm impressed that Amazon let Eric do everything he wanted to do in the show, and there was only one thing they stopped. And I'm kind of the position where I could see why they would want to pull that out, but man, that would have been funny. But leave it to Aaron to come up with all the artistic reasons why I should have been in there, and then leave it to Chris to come up with Soup Goop. But what do you think about that? Do you think they should have left it in the show? Jump down in the comment. I'm not going to recover from this. Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's attempt to move on to the final topic today. Chris, which is our fifth and final topic today?
We're finally hearing from Darius Yu. Trying to be so professional now. I know it didn't do well at the box office, but I thought Solo was a fantastic movie. One of my favorite Star Wars movies, as a matter of fact, after the original trilogy. I know you've been kind of dismissive of the whole hashtag Make Solo 2 Happen movement, but did you see that composer John Powell has joined the director and writer to spreading the Solo 2 movement? Do you think with these additional voices, Disney may give the fans what they want and do a Solo 2? Thank you.
Well, I mean, the question is, look. Yes, Ron Howard has come out in support of Make Solo 2 Happen. I mean, for those of you who don't know, there's a hashtag movement going around about Make Solo 2 Happen from people who want to get a Solo movie, a sequel to the Solo movie made. Now, look, I really like the Solo movie. I do. I think it's a fun, wonderful space adventure film. Is it anywhere near as good as the original trilogy? No. Do I like it as much as, say, The Force Awakens? No. Do I like it as much as Rogue One? No. But it's really fun. It's a fun, good movie, but it's a movie that nobody wanted. It's a movie that was completely, while all movies are unnecessary, there's never been a single movie in history made that is necessary, but I think really to the degree of unnecessary, nobody asked for, nobody wanted a Harrison Ford-less Han Solo movie. And that's why it's the only Star Wars movie in history to actually lose the studio money. Now, it's understandable that you get people, particularly the people who are involved with the film, saying, yeah, let's make another one, because it ain't them paying for it. Now, there have been a number of key people attached to the original Solo movie who have been promoting this hashtag Make Solo 2 Happen movement and been getting behind it, including Ron Howard. But now the composer of the film, he got on Instagram and he put up this picture. Of course, you recognize that from Solo. And he wrote, "This got missing/vanished. Did somebody take it? We'd understand if they needed it for hashtag Make Solo 2 Happen at Star Wars, at Lucasfilm, at Real Ron Howard." So that comes from John Powell writing that. Now look, to me, it really just simply doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Look, you can have for everybody who's saying, but John, this Make Solo 2 movement is really picking up. Yeah? Where were all those people when the movie was in theater? Because you weren't in the theater watching it, because this movie didn't even crack. Well, I mean, it got real close to 400 million, which is fine. But again, because of the huge expense that went along with it, not just because it's a big, expensive Star Wars film, but also because they had to practically reshoot the entire film when they got rid of Lord and Miller and brought in Ron Howard, the movie ended up losing money. So for everybody who's part of the Make Solo 2, where were you when this movie was in theaters? That's the first thing. The second thing is, you say in your email, do I think the studio will now give the fans what they want? Let's be clear here. The fans are not asking for this. You are asking for it. You and a number of other people, but you are not collectively the fans. There's a lot of fans who really see no need for another one. And don't get me wrong. If they were to announce tomorrow that they were going to do another Solo movie, yeah, I'd be down. I like the first one. I'd be down for it. But again, it's really one that I don't see any logical reason to do it. Ultimately. Am I surprised that somebody involved with the film is calling for a sequel? No, that just makes common sense. Of course they are, but it doesn't really mean anything. Would I be against it? No. But do I think this is going to do anything to move the needle on the studio as to whether or not they think they should do another one? It's going to make no difference whatsoever. It's going to have no impact whatsoever, and I don't think it's ultimately going to go anywhere. Aaron, when you see like filmmakers, somebody like a Ron Howard and somebody like Powell, whatever, and these people coming out to support this thing, do you think it can actually have any influence over maybe nudging the studio to do another one?
No. I mean, and also, I saw Ron Howard's tweet. It wasn't like he was saying, yeah, come on, everybody. We can get this trending. We can do this. I want you to, retweet this and hashtag. No, he wasn't doing that. He was basically responding to someone that said, hey, what do you think about this? And Ron Howard being Ron Howard, of course he's going to say, sure, golly gee, that would be great, guys, because he's Ron Howard and that's what he does. He's not going to shut anybody down. And I'm sure that if the studio said to him, hey, we actually have this incredible script for a Solo 2 that we think could be even better than the first one, take a look at it. Sure, he might be willing to get behind it in that way, but him simply tweeting a response to someone is not him getting behind a movie. He's not putting his money behind it. He's not saying, hey, I'm down to direct a Solo 2 if somebody can bring us a really good script. I was thinking, if people are really that excited about it, instead of having a Solo 2 film, would people be open to maybe having a Solo television series on Disney Plus in the same way that Winter Soldier and Falcon, or Falcon and Winter Soldier, would not have their own standalone film, but are going to have their own series? Like, what do you think about that?
It's a matter of expense. I mean, look, if you're the studio and you think this didn't work, the audience wasn't interested, we couldn't get enough people out to do it, then I don't see how. What I don't want Disney to do is start looking at their Disney Plus service as a dumping ground.
But hold on. Sorry. Please continue. Sorry.
I was just going to say, so if they don't think that something like that can work in the theater and they can't get enough people and there aren't enough people interested in it, and they realize, Han Solo movies without Harrison Ford as Han Solo isn't a good idea, then I don't think it magically becomes a good idea for a television series to throw on Disney Plus. So I don't know if that would work. I mean, I would watch it, but I don't know if overall they would see it as being beneficial. Do you?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie? Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show.
Right. But they are two different situations. You're talking about an established universe, Star Wars, where everything makes $1 billion.
I hear you. I'm just saying there is a world believe in which a TV show could usurp its film predecessor, even perhaps in an established world.
Yeah, because I mean,
if
maybe
done properly,
maybe some people at the time thought, hey, if Luke Perry can't make our Buffy movie big and successful, then nothing's going to make it big and successful, and it became one of the most iconic TV shows ever. I don't know, Chris. Is the Buffy argument an argument way to go here?
Oh man, the Buffy argument kind of swayed me a little. I was like, oh, that's a great point. But this whole tweeting thing, though, I mean, if someone says, hey, would you like to have a job again? Yeah, I'd like to have a job again. Sure, you have the artistic integrity of what you want to do, but there's also that. Yeah, I'd like to compose more music and write more stuff and do more things. That'd be very cool. What I really want, though, is a Lando movie or show. Oh my gosh, give me more of Donald Glover. That's who I loved in Solo. That's what I want to learn more about. Solo without Harrison Ford, not my cup of tea, but that's just me.
Well, we are about to get, of course, more Lando. He's going to be in Star Wars Episode 9 with, the great Billy D. Williams. He's going to be back playing the role again, so that creates more problems there, too. Question is, guys, what do you think about that? Number one, would you guys even be interested in a Solo 2? I got to admit, I'd be down for it because I like the first one. But should they do it? I'm not sure. But what do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section. Let us know that. And do you like Aaron's idea about maybe making a Disney Plus show? Maybe it can find more of an audience there and gain more traction there. Let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That will do it for all of our main topics today. So we're going to start taking some live questions from you guys. But before we do, there's a bunch of other topics going on in the world of movie news and entertainment that we don't have time to make main topics. But we want to make sure you guys get caught all up to date. So Fact Checker Jonathan proudly presents to you now today's installment of the Movie News Feed. Check it out.
First up, a new Red Band trailer for Little Monsters has been released, and it looks like a lot of fun, equal parts sweet and gruesome. From JoBlo.com, much in the vein of Shaun of the Dead, Little Monsters synopsis reads as follows. The film follows Dave, played by Alexander England, as a washed-up musician who volunteers to chaperone his nephew's kindergarten class field trip after taking a serious liking to the fearless schoolteacher, Miss Caroline, played by Lupita Nyong'o. Dave's intentions are complicated by the presence of the world's most famous kids show personality and competition for Miss Caroline's affections, Teddy McGiggle, played by Josh Gad. One thing none of them bargained for, however, is a sudden zombie outbreak. Little Monsters will hit UK and Irish cinemas on November 15th, 2019. Next up, while Booksmart may not have been the sneaky box office smash it was perhaps poised to be, the heralded comedy has catapulted Olivia Wilde into the spotlight as one of the hottest directors in the business. From MovieWeb.com, Don't Worry Darling is now at the center of a massive bidding war. There are said to be upwards of 15 different offers on the table for the project. which will see Olivia Wilde directing and starring. They were a mix of streaming services and traditional studios competing. Don't Worry Darling is simply described as a psychological thriller for the Time's Up era. There is no official plot description. Next up, the planned American Rust series has found new life at Showtime, with the premium cabler giving the show a straight-to-series order. From Variety, Jeff Daniels has come on board to star in and executive produce the show, which is based on the Philip Meyer novel of the same name, now simply titled Rust. The show is described as a family drama that will explore the tattered American dream through the eyes of a complicated and compromised chief of police, Del Harris, played by Daniels, in a Rust Belt town in southwest Pennsylvania. When the woman he truly loves sees her son accused of murder, Harris is forced to decide what he's willing to do to protect him. Next up, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is filming its 14th season. For 14 years, the characters have done some horribly self-centered, hilarious things to better themselves. From Deadline, the show balances this fine line with tackling hot-button issues but frames them in a comedic lens that pushes the envelope that many see as inappropriate, but not their loyal fans. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is not afraid to tackle topics such as racism, Me Too, and the like, but it is coming from a place that doesn't degrade it. The show, whose title was inspired by the a-ha song The Sun Always Shines on TV, has tied ABC's The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, which ran from 1952 to 1966, as the longest-running live-action comedy series. Season 14 of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia airs September 25th. And finally, modern horror master James Wan is returning to his genre roots for his next project before returning to the underwater world of Aquaman 2, with a secret film set up at New Line Cinema. From ComingSoon.net, the film, whose plot is being kept under wraps, is being co-written by Wan. Wan's current plan is to direct the project this fall in Los Angeles and then move into pre-production on the sequel to last year's critical and commercial smash, Aquaman. And that will do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed.
And now you are all caught up to date on everything going on in the world of movies. Special thanks to fact checker Jonathan. I'm not going to let you know what we were just talking about before that ended. So let's now move on to the live questions. You guys have been firing in live questions for us to talk about. So let's jump over there right now and start getting to those. And the first live question today comes into us from War Machine Rocks. And War Machine Rocks writes the following. Better fight Bruce and Clark in Batman versus Superman or Anakin versus Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith? To me, that's easy. I love the fight between Superman and Batman versus Superman. So I'm going to go the fight between Batman and Superman in that. No questions asked to me. I mean, look, there are some good things about the fight in Revenge of the Sith, but there's also some really ridiculous things. I have the high ground there. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Batman versus Superman. Chris Feldman writes, I never use my tongue on people. It's just for stamps and emergencies. One of my favorite lines from Coupling, especially taken out of context. What is Coupling?
It's a TV
British
show.
television
It's a British
show.
show.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never seen it. Do you guys watch it?
I've seen a couple episodes.
Okay.
No, and there was they tried to do a U.S. version, which was
Yeah.
actually really funny, but it didn't take off.
Oh, wasn't one of the Wayans?
Yeah, Damon
kids?
Wayans Jr. was in it, and it was when he had done New Girl,
But then left New Girl.
Left New Girl to do Coupling, and then when Coupling got canceled, he went back to New Girl.
Was he the same character?
No,
Okay.
because his cousin came in, so
That's
he
right.
wasn't replaced in New Girl, but
They brought in Winston Bishop, who'd been
But
playing
what I mean,
basketball in Latvia.
when he played Coach in New Girl, in Coupling, did he play the same character, Coach?
Oh, no.
So no, it wasn't a shared cinematic
No.
universe. Okay, I
It was
just wondering
something
about that.
like I think he did Coupling in first position with New Girl in second position, thinking that maybe New Girl wasn't going to get picked up or something. Yeah, it was just one of those.
I surprisingly like New Girl a lot. I
It's a
enjoyed
really
that.
good show.
Had a weak season or two, but overall I liked it. Amir B writes, one of two. Cineplex got to be the worst movie chain in North America. No 2D showings for tentpole movies except 3 p.m. on the weekdays. Uncomfortable seats, high ticket prices. I started going to Landmark, much better, but the closest is 90 minutes away with transit. Going to movies has become so frustrating. I'll tell you what, look, this has come up before, and it needs to come up again. And by the way, I openly invite anybody in my home country, my home and native land, Canada, who works with Cineplex theaters, which it used to be my dream, honestly, no exaggeration, it used to be my dream to, when I moved back to Canada, to work with Cineplex theaters. It was a dream of mine. Not anymore. And I invite anybody who is a representative of Cineplex, if you want to even get your PR department to send me a statement or something, because I, who has been one of your biggest supporters and fans over the years, am so disillusioned for how much to shit your theater chain has come. Like, between the outrageous pricing, the fact that you manipulate and take advantage of your customers. Like, I went back there. Some of you might have heard me tell a story. I was back there this past Christmas to, visit my family, and there wasn't a new Star Wars movie, so I took my mom to go see Bumblebee. She wanted to see Bumblebee. Yay! Everything, every showing was in bloody 3D. Every single showing except for one screening at 4 p.m. in the afternoon on a weekday. That was it. Everything else, they try to purposely herd you into the more expensive tickets of going, and they forcing people to go see that. On top of other things, no pre-assigned seats. You have to pay an extra big premium if you want a pre-assigned seat, which is you still in the dark ages, and a number of other things. I've become so disappointed in this company which was my dream to work with this company. And I'd love to hear from somebody explaining this situation. Somebody from Cineplex, please explain to me why you've become so evil. I would love to hear it. I would love to hear it. Please change my mind. And I don't say that facetiously. Please change my mind, because I would love to love you again. But yeah, they've gotten, in my opinion, completely awful. Completely awful. Anyway.
Damn, John.
Harry Mudd writes, now, I'm serious about my movie-going experience.
Evil Cineplex.
Evil Cineplex. Anyway, Harry Mudd writes, I love As Good As It Gets. Oh, God, I love that film. I love As Good As It Gets. Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt was awesome. Chemistry there. And then a little bit later on, he writes one of the best lines in cinematic history. Jack Nicholson says, a young fan says to Jack Nicholson, whose character is a writer, she goes, "How do you write women so well?" And Jack says, "I think of a man, and I take away reason and accountability." And that's from As Good As It Gets. And by the way, Greg Kinnear in that movie is so good. Cuba Gooding Jr. as well. So, but I love Greg Kinnear in that movie. I'll always think of Greg Kinnear as Captain Amazing from Mystery Men.
Oh, yeah.
But I love As Good As It Gets.
I wish you had the camera on Chris and I when you read the quote, because we both looked at each other and went,
But you have to,
I don't like
you have
it. No,
to
it's
know
a
the
very
character.
funny. No,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a very funny quote. But what's funny is that the exact facial expression that Chris just made is the exact facial expression that I made when I first saw the movie, and I was like, "Hey, I don't like that. That's not very nice."
It's one of those things where I go, I resemble that statement.
But it's also got one of the other great lines, because Jack plays he's not all in touch with himself. Let's put it that way, Jack's character. But finally later on, there's this beautiful moment. I almost tear up when I see it, when she finally is like confronting him, because he's such an ass to handle and deal with. And she says, "What's with
as we
this?"
would call him.
That's a perfect word for
Curmudgeon.
it. And he says one of the other, maybe the second best line in the movie, and he just looks at her, and it's used all the time now. Now it's cliche, but at the time, it's one of the first times I ever heard it. And he said, "You make me want to be a better man." It's like, and again, coming from that character, it meant so much more. Because if an average dude character said that, it's like, oh, sweet line. But it's coming from that character, it just had so much more to it. I adore this movie.
As if Hannibal Lecter had said it to Jodie Foster's character at the end of time. You go, wow, that means a lot.
Yes, it just brings, it's context is everything, guys. Context is everything. Amir B. Oh, wait, that was Amir B. All right, War Machine Rocks writes, Date, Marry, Kill, Lily James, Natalie Portman, and Jennifer Garner. Well, for me, that's kind of easy. My all-time celebrity crush, all-time, I'm just waiting for her to respond to my friend request, is Jennifer Garner. All time was. So that's the Mary. Date, probably Lily James. Lily James. And although I love her, the kill part would have to be Natalie Portman, but that's a Sophie's choice. That's a Sophie's choice. These three incredibly gifted, talented, beautiful, everything. But yeah, Jennifer Garner. It's all about Jennifer Garner, which is the one little thing I had against Ben Affleck for a long time. I'm not going to lie. Big Ben Affleck fan, but I think, man, you're married to Jennifer Garner. Okay. BMC writes, so excited for Mindhunter Season 2. September 16th, needs to hurry. This is a show. Did either of you guys get around to watching Mindhunter? It was I knew nothing about it.
I don't even know anything about it.
It's on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
I knew nothing about it. I just heard a bunch of people say, oh my God, you got to check out Mindhunter.
Okay.
Because of the modern trends, I assumed it was some sort of superhero, psychic, whatever show. It's not. It's about the original people in the FBI who started profiling serial killers.
Oh, wow.
Back
I'd
in
watch
the
that.
60s and stuff like that. It's amazing. I keep forgetting the actress's name, but it's the lead girl from Fringe. And she stars in it as well. And she is fantastic. The show is amazing. It's creepy. The
Anna Torv?
That sounds right, yes.
Okay.
The show it's creepy when they talking to all these different serial killers. It's intense. It's got great characters.
That's her, Anna Torv.
I highly recommend it, guys. If you haven't started watching Mindhunter, I highly recommend you check that thing out. Darth Devo Knievel writes, could It Chapter 1 re-released or be re-released with It Chapter 2 for a double feature? It could. I don't think they will, though. I honestly don't think they would. But, I mean, it's something that would be an option to them. Chris Feldman writes, I think one of the hardest parts about being an actor would be doing love scenes. Actors always say it's not romantic and just a job, but it seems like there'd be a lot of stress involved, not only from shooting the scene, but jealousy from actual romantic partners, family seeing you naked, etc. Well, fortunately, we are here in this room with somebody
I know nothing about that.
who has done on-screen love scenes and nudity and stuff like that. So I'm going to tell you about my experience. So,
Yes, John.
Aaron, I mean, like, I remember, like, you and I used to joke about that stuff before, but I mean, really, I can't imagine, especially with my social paranoia, I can't imagine the what it takes to create, I guess, a mental detachment between doing something that, in the best circumstances, is awkward as hell. I mean, like, physical intimacy, for some people, is just an awkward thing to begin with. But to do it in front of not only a big crew of people, with somebody who is not your romantic partner, knowing that family and friends are watching it, I mean, that takes something that I can't even imagine getting in touch with to do that. What is that like as a performer doing stuff like that?
Well, I actually talk about this extensively in my interview with Alicia Oxy on her podcast, That One Audition.
Right.
First of all, when I hear actors say that love scenes are not romantic, I'm like, you're lying. You're absolutely lying, because let's be honest, when your body is doing sexy things with another person, and if you are being cast in a love scene, there's a very good chance that you're being cast in a love scene with someone that is relatively attractive, and the human body doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know, oh, I'm married, you're married, whatever. The human body just knows, oh, someone's touching me in a way that I know what this leads to. And so, which is why you sometimes have stories about people getting a little bit excited, which I always say, hey guys, if that's going to happen, why don't you just go Homelander yourself beforehand in your trailer, take care of that business and then come to set when you don't have as much loaded in the tank. But the way that, okay, so I'll give this example for when we did Nip Tuck. The director said, okay, we're just going to press, record, you guys just do your thing. Well, no, I think that a love scene is no different than a fight scene. And you don't want to be mentally detached from a fight scene, because then people get hurt. And if you're mentally detached from a love scene, people might get hurt. So I say, for a love scene, you should have a very honest and frank conversation with the director and with your co-star and say, what are your parameters? I asked Julian McMahon, do you mind
Who
if
was
I...
Dr. Doom for those of you in the Fantastic Four movies, so those of you recognize the name.
Yes, and he was in Nip Tuck, and we had a love scene, and I said, is it okay if I use tongue when I kiss you? He said, sure. He said, can I touch your breasts? I said, sure. I said, can I touch your butt? He said, okay. And we figured out, like, what were the parameters and what did we not want to do. We choreographed it with the director, and for Spartacus, for example, Andy Whitfield and I had very frank conversations with Rick Jacobson, our director, and he said, this is what I want. I want it to feel very natural. I don't want us to feel like it's choreographed per se. He said, but there are specific positions that I need for camera. One position will be Andy on top of Aaron. One position will be Aaron on top of Andy. One position will be, Aaron and Andy with him behind her. We can get you guys kissing. He said, so I'm just going to say one, you guys get in position one and do what comes natural to you. And Andy and I worked out what made sense for our parameters. Two, we moved to the next position. And then also, the second unit, the first AD, brought a boombox and played music, so we were able to have that sensory awareness, outside of everything here. And also, Andy and I said, in this moment, we are here together, and we didn't look at anybody else. We didn't think about anybody else. We just stayed there. Mike Vogel said to me one time some of the greatest piece of advice that I use in my marriage with Tom, because he also is required to do sex scenes, and we have a no jealousy for sex scenes policy, which is from action to cut. You commit everything as if that person is the person that you are romantically involved with, because that's your job. And between cut and action, you bring it home to mama. So as long as it's being brought home to mama, Tom, you go for it. Sell it. Make it look good.
You know what? It's also, I was so, just like I can't even imagine doing that as an actor. I remember the one little movie I made that you were in, Aaron. Mm-hmm. The only scene of nudity in the movie was Kat. This actress, her name is Kat, and she did a nude scene with Jason. And I remember, like I said, look, as far as direction goes, because I had no idea what to do with this. I was serious. This is how much I cowered out of it. I said, look, this is what I want visually to see. I want this camera movement in here because I want to come in the love scene to come into shot this way, and I want it to leave the shot this way. I turned to Kat, but listen, you're the one who's nude here. You tell us what you want to do when that's on there. And that was totally a chicken shit thing of me. That was me abdicating the responsibility of it. But I was so uncomfortable with them. Just like, tell you what, this is what I want the camera to do, Kat. But when the camera's on you guys, you decide what's happening.
I think that's a smart thing for a director to do, because then you're empowering the actors. And I also am a firm believer. Like, before I did Spartacus, I said to my parents, who I'm very close to, my dad is like super, military from Texas. My mom is a super Catholic from South Louisiana. I said, listen, guys, I want to do this project, and in this project, it's going to require me to do this scene. And I likened it to the sex scene in 300, which my dad loves that movie. And so my parents said, oh yeah, we thought that was really beautifully done. That was very artistic. So I think that
you got
also
cool parents.
Yeah, I do. Yes, very much so. And so I think that when it comes to your family and friends, I know someone who was supposed to audition for the role of Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones, and she turned down the audition because she comes from a very, very Catholic Irish family, and she said, my family would disown me if I did that. You have to come up with your own, if it's going to be something that your family is going to disown you for, and that's going to be a problem for you, then you need to decide, okay, maybe this isn't something that sits well with me. For me, it was a right decision. I would never say that anyone should do nudity or sex scenes if they don't feel comfortable with it. And if you haven't reconciled that before you get to set, then you need to step out of that job and let someone else do it.
I can just imagine the guy, what's the name of the actor again who plays Homelander in The Boys?
Anthony Starr.
I can just see him having that same conversation that you had with your parents. Okay, so I'm going to be doing the scene where I'm going to be pulling down my pants, I'm going to be jerking off over New York City, then have his parents, oh yeah, I think that can be beautifully done.
Well, look at Naomi Watts in Mulholland Drive.
Oh, God, I love that movie so
Masturbation can be quite an integral part of the storyline.
It can be. All right, we need to move on here. Next one up. Yeah, Darth. Do we though? Darth Evil Knievel writes, Feldman from across the hall, Seinfeld. I'm obviously it's a Seinfeld reference of some sort. I got to admit, Darth, when that one's going over my head. Lemuel James writes, Robert, I'm watching Torchwood Children of Earth for the first time and it's blowing my mind. Well, Robert is clearly not here today. Yeah, by the way, that is a show I constantly hear mentioned. This Torch is, okay, Chris, you're clearly somebody who's into the show.
Yeah.
This is a good show.
I love Torchwood. Torchwood is great.
Is it? I thought I heard it. Is it a Doctor Who spinoff?
It is.
Okay.
It follows Captain Jack Harkness.
Right,
who's real dreamy and played by John Barrowman.
Right, who is also in Arrow. He played. Okay,
yeah, and he's also written some of the Arrow comics as well. He does them with his sister.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Barrowman's amazing.
There are some people who are just so handsome it just makes you mad because you think that's just unfair. And Barrowman's like one of these guys where he's got this total he's got everything. He's got a hot look of a younger guy, the distinguished look of an older guy, the square jaw. He's got really intelligent. It's just like. Fuck you.
The ability to seamlessly slip into his natural Scottish brogue.
Yes.
Or sound like an all-American man, and you're like, What? Stop it.
Yes, I keep having people tell me I need to check the show.
It's
and
great.
I think I need to at some point. Chris Parsons writes, what's the most underrated 80s movie? Chris, off the top of my head, I couldn't even tell you which movies were 80s movies. Seriously, I don't carry that around off the top of my head. It's a great question. Discuss it in the chat board amongst yourselves.
Earth Girls are easy.
Which one?
Earth Girls are easy.
great film.
Yes, you and your Earth Girls are
I love
easy.
Earth Girls are easy.
Nick writes, hey guys, just thought you should know that the infamous Twin Towers deleted scene from Spider-Man 2 was just uploaded to YouTube. Since this scene's preview in the theaters back in 2001, Sony intended to never for it to see the light of day. You might want to check it out before it gets pulled. I don't really see any need to watch it. I mean, look, a lot of people forget one of the big initial trailers for the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man was it was a scene that wasn't going to be in the movie, but it was this helicopter with these robbers who just robbed something, and they were getting away in a helicopter, and all of a sudden the helicopter slams to a stop mid-air, and you see that it pans back, Spider-Man had spun a giant web between the two towers, catching the helicopter. It was a great commercial for totally understandable reasons. It became persona non grata. It became something they had to get rid of and all that kind of stuff. I'll be honest with you, I don't feel a need to see it. I'm sure a lot of people will be curious to watch it, but I personally don't feel a need to go and watch that. Do either of you guys?
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of people that appreciate you bringing it up and mentioning that it's out there, but it was such a great first trailer. It was such a great first trailer. It really is unfortunate for the movie. It's just speaking in terms of the movie. It was unfortunate that they had to lose that. Robert Aguirre writes, where are we at? Fans since AMC days. Thank you so much, Robert. Have you all seen Another Life on Netflix? If you like Stranger Things, then Another Life will hook you as well. Again, Robert, one of the big problems with Netflix is they are the worst, most incompetent company on the planet of marketing and promoting their own stuff. I haven't heard of, I've never even heard of it, Rob. Have either of you guys?
No.
See, but I'm fascinated. This sounds like something that's cool.
Yeah.
But Netflix is totally incompetent when it comes to promoting their own original material because there's so much of their stuff that's on there that I've never even heard of, and I should have at least heard of it. But thank you for putting that on our radar, Robert. Appreciate that, man. All right, Nick writes, sent you an email with the YouTube video link. Oh, I appreciate. Well, thank you for that, and make sure you share that with other people as well, Nick. Chris Parsons writes, over under 50%. Picard reflects today's political issues. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Star Trek has always reflected modern issues. Whether it was issues back when the original series was on, whether it was issues when the Next Generation was on. I mean, they always did that sort of thing. And
First interracial kiss.
That's the thing. A lot of people forget about that. Like we see, like you watch a rerun of that, it's like, oh yeah, Picard's kissing her. Okay. No, you have no idea.
Big deal.
I mean, that was before our time and everything, but at that time, it was the first time ever, and it took a show like Star Trek that they had an interracial kiss on television. They've always delved into that stuff. It's part of the DNA of Star Trek, and I think Robert would be very disappointed if they didn't do that a little bit. But so I'm going to go over 50%, Chris. Aaron, what do you think? Over, under 50%?
I think over.
Over, for sure.
Chris, you as well? Okay, yeah, I'm definitely going to take the over on that. Let's put it this way. I'd be shocked if they didn't, because that's part of the DNA. All right, Nick writes again. Also, this sudden upload of that Twin Tower scene out of nowhere begs the question, has this video been uploaded against Sony's will? Thoughts? Well, again, I don't know because I haven't seen the video. I don't know what channel it's on. If it's not on Sony's official channel, then that does mean that somebody got their hands on it against Sony's will and put it up, and I wouldn't doubt it if they get it pulled down pretty quick. But again, maybe it's on Sony Pictures' official YouTube channel. I don't know, so it all depends on that, Nick. Richard Green writes, I hope this Dungeons & Dragons movie is better than the one made in 2000. Hope it's not too serious nor too campy. Needs great characters. Well, I mean, right there, Richard, every movie needs great characters. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And yes, that Dungeons & Dragons movie is one of the greatest atrocities committed against the art of filmmaking in the history of it, despite the fact that it had a pretty decent cast, particularly with Jeremy Irons in it. It was awful. But after seeing what the guys did in writing Spider-Man Homecoming, after seeing the movie they directed in Game Night, I'm pretty confident that these guys could make something pretty good. And let's just say, if not excited, I'm very interested in a new Dungeons & Dragons movie. And granted, I play Dungeons & Dragons, so I'm a little bit biased for sure, but I think we're going to get something good. Aaron, do you think there's hope for this Dungeons and Dragons movie, or do you think it's kind of hopeless like the last one?
No, I think there's great hope for it, and I'm just gonna go out there and say it. I've said it before. I'm gonna say it again. Joe Manganiello is going to be a part of this. I don't know how, in what way, but I know that he's gonna be a part of it because he has been Instagramming a lot about his Dungeons and Dragons fandom.
Well, one of my buddies, Kyle Newman, who was just on my Masters of the Web panel, he plays in the weekly game with Joe, and Kyle just put out the greatest. By the way, you should check it out, Aaron. It's downstairs on my coffee table. Kyle just wrote, with a couple of other guys, the greatest Dungeons and Dragons in the history of Dungeons and Dragons book I've ever read.
Oh,
it's
really?
It's called Art and Arcana, which is basically like this long history of the development of Dungeons and Dragons, the art of Dungeons and Dragons, all that kind of stuff. And it's written by him, and one of the other main guys to write it is Sam Witwer, who was just the bad guy on Supergirl. He's going to be in Riverdale.
Okay.
This upcoming thing. Sam Witwer. And anyway, they all play in Joe's. And then Joe wrote the foreword on that and then went around and did their promo. And actually, you'd like this, Aaron. Joe and Sam and Kyle, Anne had brought those guys. She got those guys and brought them to Hasbro, which owns Dungeons and Dragons, to do a little intercompany Q&A about Dungeons and Dragons and the new book and all that kind of stuff. And you're right. Joe is the world's biggest evangelist right now for Dungeons and Dragons.
He's going to make it happen.
I don't know if you guys saw him on Stephen Colbert. He was on Colbert, and that's all they talked about was Dungeons and Dragons. It's like, Colbert's like, you don't look like a Dungeons and Dragons geek, this monstrous bodybuilding guy. It's like, and he's got his own... He's got his own clothing line now, a Dungeons and Dragons clothing line called Death Saves, which is great. You're right. I didn't even think about it. They have to find a way to get Joe Manganiello.
100%. I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually behind it in some way, helping back it or something.
I hope so.
But I have to get that book for Tom because he's also like, I mean, as you know, he's a Joe Manganiello fan and also a huge D&D fan.
When you go downstairs, check it out. It's on the coffee table.
I will steal it.
I think Joe autographed it for Ann too. But anyway, don't steal it. Don't steal it. It's
I will
mine.
definitely steal it.
Mine,
it will not be here
time.
when you go downstairs.
All right. Nick writes, I only ask because, going back to the Spider-Man thing, I only ask because this scene has never been released on home media, and I don't think it ever will, unless by some miracle it's released on 4K soon. It's one of those things. I mean, look, I don't feel the need to run out and watch it, but it is history, right? It is something of cinematic history, and it's a reflection of a pivotal moment in global history as well. So I wouldn't doubt it if Sony at some point, for the whole history of it, to release it. It just all depends on who released it right now. Ben Burnside writes, hey Chris, did you see the movie Dragon Ball Super Broly? If so, what was your favorite fight? I love Vegeta versus Broly. Failed to convince John to see it. So I don't know, Chris, did you see Super Broly?
I have not seen that. And actually, it took Dragon Ball Z Kai for me to like Dragon Ball more. I personally, and I know I'm going to make a lot of people mad, I've always felt that was kind of an overrated anime because of how long everything took. And then I saw Z Kai, and it's a much more condensed version, and went, oh, okay, I really enjoy this show. This is really great. So I'll have to give more Dragon Ball stuff a try now that I know that I like that show.
Yeah. Next one up comes to us from Krypton Cage, who writes, hey, John, I'm Homelander, and I can do whatever the F I want. I feel like I can talk the boys every day and still not get bored of it. Binged it day one. I'm telling you, it was just such a... And you know what? A lot of the superhero genre now, people are trying some really crazy, wacky stuff. Doom Patrol is a great example of that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I adore Doom Patrol so much. I love Brendan Fraser in that. I love Alan Tudyk in that. I love Timothy Dalton in that. It's just so good. And the girl who plays Jane is like remarkable, Emmy-worthy even, I would say. And you're right. Right now, I feel like I could talk The Boys all day. And why so many people have been asking me to do The Boys spoilers review. I'm not going to, but I can understand why. Nick writes, hi again, Psy. Upon further research, I found lower quality versions of that Twin Tower scene that have been available on YouTube for years. Sorry for getting worked up over nothing, guys. Typical of me. Well, it doesn't change anything. No, I mean, the significance of the scene, Nick, doesn't change. And I still think it's still an interesting question as to whether Sony or not released that. So it's still an interesting topic, Nick. So don't beat yourself up over it, dude, because it's still fascinating. Dave Atkins writes, finished The Boys some days ago. An amazing show. Completely agree, Dave. I loved it. I'm really, really curious to see where they're going to go with season 2, because I believe I heard they renewed it for season 2, so fingers crossed. Krypton Cage writes, do you think the way more people would have watched The Boys if it was on Netflix instead of Amazon Prime? Why do you think it's not as popular as it should be? That's an interesting question, guys, because look, first of all, you're seeing a lot of people are writing about it and talking about it. Amazon Prime is not as popular of a place for content yet, because they're putting out some good stuff on Amazon Prime, by the way. Also, because it is, look, we talk about how dark and edgy Daredevil and Punisher are, and they're great, but The Boys make them look like Bambi. I mean, The Boys is very violent and very graphic and all that kind of stuff, and that's not for everybody. Whereas, Daredevil and stuff like that, that's for a lot wider of a demographic. But Aaron, you've seen The Boys. Why do you think maybe right now it's not as popular as maybe some Netflix series are?
Well, it also just came out like 5 seconds ago. So, a lot of these streaming shows, we were just talking about how Netflix has the most abominable marketing ever, and they have shows that no one's even ever heard of. So I don't necessarily think that if it was on Netflix, it would be doing any better. I think I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think that as more people are talking about The Boys, more people are going to start watching The Boys, and I think that it actually will maybe be one of those shows that elevates Amazon Prime's viewership overall.
They are putting a lot into the marketing of that show. Chris, do you have a theory on that?
I think The Boys is very popular. I'm confused by this.
Yeah.
That's all people are talking to me about. That's all I'm making videos about in my spare time.
Especially considering it is an Amazon Prime show.
Yeah.
I mean, because those aren't the most popular things out there, but they've been doing some really, really good stuff. Yeah. All right, good question. Ben Burnside writes, I love Rocky, but another Rocky movie? I don't know. I'm the biggest Rocky fan around, but I'm close to having my fill. And I think a lot of people are asking that question, Ben. I think, look, if Stallone, who just got an Academy Award nomination for playing Rocky again in Creed, if Stallone feels there's a good story to tell with him now really being the Mickey character, then go for it if it's good enough. And if the studio believes in it, I get it. But yeah, on the surface, it feels like, really? Another one with Rocky? I don't know, Chris, do you what's the first thing you think of when you hear that Stallone is working on another Rocky movie? Is it like, really, or is it, wow, this must be good? What do you think?
It's really, we've talked about this on the show before. It just makes me think of Spaceballs. And we're coming back with Rocky 5000.
Yeah.
That's all I can think about. If it's still a quality story, that's awesome. We've seen that the other more recent films have done really well and had good stories to tell. But I've got Rocky fatigue.
What do you think, Aaron?
I think absolutely. Go for it. I mean, Stallone's not going to be around forever, and clearly he knows his audience. If the movies keep on making money and there's more stories to be told, and also he can elevate the careers of other people, which ultimately that's what he's doing. He's not playing whether he's playing the title character or not, he's not ultimately the star of the movie. He has the ability, as an older, more established actor in Hollywood, he has the ability to take a younger actor and give them a prominent role and be seen in a way that maybe their career needs. And because, I'm sorry, I'm totally blanking. Black Panther, Creed, actor.
Actor or
Michael B.
director?
Jordan.
Actor. What?
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan. I think that Michael B. Jordan, his work in the Rocky franchise has elevated his career and made him an easy choice to be put into, superhero roles.
All right, next one up. Kevin Lewis writes, notice how Quentin Tarantino defeminized women in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by showing them snore and have dirty feet, even Sharon Tate. I don't think that's defeminizing. I just think, Quentin Tarantino likes to make people feel like real people. And guess what? Real feminine women snore and have dirty feet. And just like everybody else. I don't think that was anything out of the ordinary for either Quentin Tarantino or filmmakers in general. So I don't know. I think that's just very, very consistent, Kevin, I'll be honest with you, with the way Quentin Tarantino makes films.
And he also has a foot fetish.
And he does have a foot
And he
fetish,
does have a little bit of a foot fetish. Yes, there's that too. A lot of feet. And then Kevin writes, if not, watch it for it next time. No, it's very noticeable, but I think that's just consistent with the way he makes films. At least that's the way I saw it, Kevin.
I am a lady, Kevin, and I snore.
Yeah.
And I'm a nice lady.
My wife snores too. I mean, oh boy,
I
her
don't.
and her
And
brother.
my feet are never dirty.
Aaron's perfect, you guys.
Yes.
We've established that very well here on the show. Aaron's
lots
wonderful
of
and has
snoring,
great
lots
insight,
of
and I'm like,
dirty
poop jokes.
Speaking about Anne and her brother who snore, again, I mean, Aaron mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I do want to highlight, guys, hey, do me a favor. If you're watching the show right now, can you do me a favor? Can you jump into the comment section and just write "Happy Birthday, Ray." It is Ray Ora's, Anne's brother, who does most of the graphics for the show here today. It is his birthday today, and we appreciate him around here. And could you guys just take a second, jump in the comments, and just write "Happy Birthday, Ray"? That would be great, because I'm sure he'd love to see that. So I just want to throw that out there as well. All right, Ben Burnside writes, was Emperor Palpatine really holding back his true power when fighting Mace Windu? And plus, how can Mace Windu die when they were all on the high ground? Very, very funny. I would say this. I do believe that the Emperor was just feigning when he was fighting Mace Windu, knowing that he wanted Anakin in the room to make that call. Because remember, in that scene when he's fighting Mace Windu, he's on the ground going, "Oh, please save me, I'm so weak," as he's getting hammered by Mace Windu, right? But then as soon as Anakin comes in, as soon as Anakin attacks Mace Windu, all of a sudden Palpatine goes from, "Oh, I'm so weak," ha ha ha, and he was feigning. He was feigning it, totally feigning it. And yeah, it is an interesting question about him being on the high ground. It's a very interesting question. Ben writes, Mark Riley, when he was watching the Top Gun 2 trailer, wait, is Tom Cruise actually flying the plane? He even flew the jet upside down. Again, I don't know. Look, Tom Cruise is infamous for doing a lot of his own stuff, including he decided he wanted to fly the plane. But I'm sure he doesn't do everything that we see the plane do. Much like he flew helicopters, but he didn't do all the helicopter stuff in real life that you saw in Mission Impossible 6. So I don't know if he flew the plane upside down. He might have. Maybe that's actually not as difficult as it sounds. But it is crazy how committed Tom Cruise is to making every one of his movies feel as legit as possible by doing all these crazy stunts. And I don't know how much longer he can do it, because I think, what is he, 55, 56? Maybe older than that. Actually, hey, Google, how old is Tom Cruise? Find out.
Tom Cruise is 57 years old.
All right, he's 57. He's 57 and doing all this crazy stuff. So
why am I younger and so much less capable?
so he's doing so.
You are capable.
Yes.
I believe that we are all capable of having Brad Pitt abs if we want them, and we're willing to work hard for them. But you know what? I guarantee Brad Pitt does not know a smidgen about animation that you do.
Aw.
There you go.
Thanks.
We all have our
One
strengths.
of us looks really cute, and the other one has a lot of knowledge about Garth Ennis. So
There we go.
yeah.
All right. Let's see. Matsuv Jada writes, where are we? Now we know Leo ditched Del Toro's film for Scorsese. I'm not quite sure what it is we're talking about there, Matsuv. Kevin Lewis writes, Del Taco now has plant-based meat in their Beyond Tacos. What's next? Soylent Green is people. Soylent Green is people. No, listen, Kevin, that's actually very, very smart. I mean, I would rather lick up a dog's vomit, but there are a lot of people. If you're a company, you provide options for your customers, and there are customers out there who want these sorts of alternatives. So look, I don't want ketchup on my eggs, but if I go to a breakfast place, you probably should have ketchup on your tables for your customers. I don't see anything wrong with that. Do either of you guys eat meatless?
I love it. The Beyond Burger, if it's on a menu, I will eat it every single time. I think that overall, people are consuming, and I'm not vegetarian, I'm not vegan, I don't have any political agenda. However, I have a health agenda, and overall, I can attest that almost every person who's a meat eater is eating way too much meat. Mm-hmm. I try to practice Meatless Mondays, where I just have more vegetables and less meat. And if people can start gravitating towards a more plant-based meat world where we're incorporating, I know Sonic, for example, was doing some burgers that were like 60% mushroom and the rest of it, but they were working with the flavors and actually charring them so that they had that burger taste to them. So I think it's a wonderful thing for people to start eating burgers that are more percentage of plants, and it's better for the planet, it's better for your health, it's better overall to eat more plants than animals in general.
Yeah.
That's just fact.
We're
That's
doing
science.
meat 3 times a week at our house just to cut down on our stuff. And my husband has a dairy farm and grew up on farms. He loves eating steak. And Taco Bell, good on them. Everyone has the opportunity to get bad butt now.
Del Taco.
Del Taco, excuse me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, my dad's a deer
everyone should get
hunter.
to
Like
have,
I grew
weird...
up on venison. This is not a vegetarian, thing. And I agree with Chris.
All right, next up, Harry Mudd writes, if you find yourself alone riding in green fields with the sun on your face, do not be troubled. You are in Elysium and you're already dead. I don't know what the quote's from. It's probably a movie that I've seen 1,000 times and I just don't recognize it. Harry also follows up with, I've always liked Long Kiss Goodnight. I love Long Kiss Goodnight with Samuel Jackson and Gina Davis. Had great chemistry there. That is seriously, Long Kiss Goodnight is a movie that I feel like was before its time. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it is a movie with its story and what they do in it that could be released today. You know what I mean? I've always loved that. And it's actually probably my favorite Gina Davis movie. It's probably my favorite. Do you guys have a favorite one?
I've never heard of this movie.
A favorite Gina Davis movie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think you know what I'm going to say.
Okay, yes, here it goes.
No, it's not Earth Girls Are Easy, although I
it's
do love
not?
it.
Okay.
No, A League of Their Own.
Oh, yeah, League of Their Own is fantastic. There's no crying
I've also
in baseball.
Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, Thelma and Louise is great, but
She's great in Beetlejuice.
You would
Oh, she's
love,
great in Beetlejuice. She's
love
great in
Long Kiss
everything.
Goodnight. You would love A Long Kiss Goodnight. Go and
I
check
will
that
watch
out.
it this weekend.
Okay, let's see here. Edgar Navarro writes, I can't wait for Hobbs and Shaw, honestly, not because I'm super excited for it, but it's the one film franchise me and my dad can get giddy about because of the action, and I feel it has brought us closer. Well, that's
I love
awesome.
that.
And you know what? It is, look, it is a dumb movie. Like, make no mistake about it. It's a dumb movie, but it is fun. I mean, me and Chris had a lot of fun watching it.
It was so fun.
And I'll tell you what, too. This is the movie I want to see. One of the readers sent this to me today. This is the movie I want to see. Calvin and Hobbes. This is the movie I want to see. That's the
I
one
would
you
see
put
that.
in the. Look at the hair on Jason Statham's head.
Oh my gosh.
Calvin is now all grown up. That is. No, it's easily the best comic strip of all time, in my opinion. I love that. I love Dilbert. I love Far Side, but Calvin and Hobbes is the best thing ever. But that's the one I want to see right there. Okay, let's keep moving here. And oh, and by the way, Edgar, I can totally relate because one of the things I look forward to every year going home is taking my mom to the movies. That's like, it's just a great shared experience, and that's awesome that you and your dad have that. All right, last question here today for Aaron and Chris before they go off and do the things they got to do with their day. Godzilla's Massive Schlong writes, is it fair to say Paul W.S. Anderson is the worst director of this generation? His movies are just downright horrible, so how does he keep getting work? Well, no, I don't think he is downright the worst director of his generation. Look, has he made some bad movies? Sure. But his movies also have their fans. I mean, you got to keep that in mind, too. His movies also have their fans. And he has this thing for keep putting his wife in his movies, too, so whatever. His three Amigos movies. His Three Musketeers movie is one of the worst films ever. Like in the history of this stuff, it is absolutely one of the worst. He's got a number of films that I think are really bad, but is he the worst? No. I mean, look, even Steven Spielberg's got a bad day at the office and all that kind of stuff. So no. And look, he comes up with creative ideas. He knows what he's doing. Some of his movies make some money. So that's why a guy like that keeps getting work and all that kind of stuff. So do you guys have any thoughts on Paul W.S. Anderson and these movies he does?
I mean, I think that it just, movies like Resident Evil and Mortal Kombat and Death Race, they have a specific audience, and those types of films need a specific kind of director who understands exactly what needs to be served, and he fulfills that purpose. The world of the arts takes all kinds and requires all kinds. Not every Anderson can be Wes Anderson. Or Paul Thomas Anderson. So he's fulfilling the slot.
All the Andersons of the world.
All the Andersons of the world. But, I wouldn't necessarily say that he's the worst director in the world. Maybe it's just that he happens to have been pigeonholed into this box where these are the types of films that he ends up making, that he gets opportunities to make.
Yeah, I mean, everyone needs a good bad movie every now and then, and there's definitely an audience for that. I mean, I love so much trash that's hidden on Netflix. Like, there's a Shark Avalanche movie. There is so much...
I'm sorry, Shark Avalanche?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you guys. Shark Avalanche, Wolf Cop, All of these movies that are meant
Wolf
to just
Cop?
be... Yes. Oh, Wolf Cop is terrible. There's a horrible transformation scene.
That's a
We're
real
gonna
thing?
watch it. It's a real thing.
Wolf Cop?
You watch the entire transformation,
Wait,
including...
what was the movie the other day that we realized you didn't see, and we said we got to do a thing where we film
Oh,
us
I
watching
haven't seen Aliens 2.
Aliens.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Which I'm going to be such a
Aliens,
baby
yeah.
because anything spooky or icky, I'm just like, ah!
it's the best.
I
So
told
good.
John, y'all, when I was walking in here, I 1950s housewife screamed because I walked through a spider web and was like, ah!
Get away from her,
So-
you
Can you
bitch.
imagine
Yeah.
the scream we would have got from Erin if she walked through a spider web
know.
with a spider in it?
Oh my god, no. I can't even handle that. No. I'm not
Yeah,
interested.
I think there's a director for every movie, and it just depends if that movie's your cup of tea.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we're going to wrap things up here for Aaron and for Chris being here. They've got things they've got to do. We're going to continuing to answer your questions for at least another half hour. So first of all, Chris, let's start with you. Where can people find you online?
You can find me at actor Chris Carr on Twitter and on Instagram, and you can also check out videos that I do, especially if you like The Boys or Avatar, over on Nerdwire.
And of course, Aaron Cummings. Aaron, where can people find you online, the stuff you're doing?
You can find me at Aaron L. Cummings, and also we have new episodes of my podcast, Kappa Kappa Cancer, your guide to the sorority you never wanted to join. You can listen to it on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And it was awesome having both of you guys today. Enjoy. Have a soup goop of a day, everybody. And we'll look forward to having both of you guys back on again next week, obviously. All right, guys, like I said, you and I are not done. You and I still have some business to do here. We still got a bunch more questions to get to, so let's keep things rolling on that level. All right, Harry Mudd writes, at Godzilla, Uva Bowl. Uva Bowl. I mean, a lot of people pronounce it Yui, which I always did, but I found it's actually pronounced Uva. Uva Bowl is way worse. Paul at least has a few good titles in his roster. I'll take that. At least has a few good titles in his roster. Event Horizon, Soldier, Pandorum, for instance. And yeah, probably Uva will probably take the title of that. By the way, I've met Uwe Boll, and I had a chance to sit down with him at a hotel in Toronto once and just chat about stuff for a good 20 minutes. He's actually a really interesting character. I tell you, without any irony or facetiousness, I actually really enjoyed sitting down and talking to Uwe Boll for a while, because he's just a dude who wants to be a filmmaker, and he's actually a pretty funny guy. I enjoyed my time with him. That's all I can say. Augustin Boyas writes, I was joking about Captain Marvel thing. I went to go see it twice. Also got my 4K Steelbook edition from Best Buy. I don't remember what it was we were talking about, Captain Marvel, so I can't address that, but sounds like you enjoyed yourself, though, and congrats on getting that physical media. Enjoy it while you can, because I don't know if this is going to be around for very long, Augustin. Thanks for writing that in, man. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, Jane the Virgin is over, and I can now officially say I never had a single bad episode in 5 seasons. Only Breaking Bad can say the same. I have never seen a single episode of Jane the Virgin. I don't even know anything about the show. All I know is that it's a girl who was a virgin that because of some mix-up in the hospital, she ended up getting impregnated or something. I see, and a bunch of you are laughing at me right now, but I don't know what. All I know is that I'm forgetting the name of the girl. Is it Rodriguez? The lead girl in it. She was also in Deepwater Horizon. She was awesome in that. And so I've got a lot of interest in her because she seems really talented, but I've never seen the show. But it is one of the more celebrated shows in the last few years, and I've never seen a single episode. Ben Hayusa writes, watching Hobbs and Shaw tonight, possibly the last movie I'll see before I head into the Air Force. But first, a week vacation with the family to Panama City, Florida. Well, enjoy yourself, Ben, and, safe travels for all the stuff you have coming up, and enjoy Hobbs and Shaw. Remember, it's a dumb movie. It is dumb, but if you can get over that, it's pretty fun. It's a pretty fun movie, and I think you're going to have a good time watching it. At least I hope you do, man. All right, Kevin Lewis writes, I fear a byproduct of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, a way to introduce mutants. I don't think so. A lot of people have asked that 1,000 times, Kevin, is Doctor Strange going to be how they bring in I don't think so. Remember, too, that Doctor Strange was planned long before Kevin Feige even knew that Fox was getting taken over by Marvel. Kevin Feige has said it's going to be years before you see any any X-Men or any Fantastic Four stuff. He said it'd be years. So I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, anything's possible, but Kevin Feige seems to have made it pretty clear that's not going to be the case. Chris Hamilton writes, which hero delivers the line, you will better? Wanda in Endgame or Batman? Ooh. Batman. Hey, look, I love the way Wanda says that. I really do. You will. When she's talking to Thanos, that's awesome. But Batman standing there, do you bleed? You will. Oh my God. It was also like a promise. They're both awesome. It's a great question, Chris, but I'm going to lean towards the Batman delivery of it. All right, Darth Impact writes, if the MCU do make any big announcements at D23, which I do believe they will, which one would you be excited for? Synopsis of the Disney Plus shows, the full lineup of Phase 5, or the casting of the Fantastic Four? Easily a lineup of Phase 5. Easily lineup of Phase 5. They do not have a casting lineup for Fantastic Four because Fantastic Four isn't happening for years. So that's not, what I would be easily most excited for is the actual lineup of Phase 5. Which I believe will include Captain Marvel, Black Panther 2, a number of things that are coming, but that's the one that would easily excite me more, Darth. Absolutely. Darth also follows up with and writes, do you think Tony was justified in lashing out at Cap after he was rescued from space? No, he wasn't justified, but you can completely forgive him because he was clearly in rough shape, right? He was very emotional, clearly in rough shape, thought he was going to die. His body had wasted away. He was dehydrated. It was all that kind of stuff. And I thought Cap was very, very patient with him. You know, I mean, a lot of the stuff that Tony was yelling at Cap was Tony's fault. But he was kind of just putting it on Cap. And I think that's why later, you know, they're good again because, you know, Tony realizes what he said was stupid. But that's completely understandable given the context and the situation that Tony had just come out of. And I think Cap knew that. Because the only thing Cap said in refute to him was when Cap said, I wanted to build a suit of armor around the world. And Cap just said, and how did that work out? But that's the only thing he said. He said nothing else after that because he knew Tony was in a rough place. And I think that's just adds to the character of Tony Stark, to be honest with you. Superman Steve writes, the Red Sea diving resort on Netflix is awesome. You know, the trailer looks intriguing. It's speaking of Captain America, it's got Chris Evans in it. That really does look intriguing. Rob was talking about that the other day, Steve. He's really excited to watch it. So, you know, it's one I might have to give a shot. Obviously, I've got a lot of hesitancy about Netflix live action or original movies because normally they suck. But this one does look intriguing, and hearing you recommend it, I might have to check that out here sooner rather than later, Superman Steve. Thanks for recommending it. All right. Eduardo O'Neill writes, kill two birds, one stone. Move many ads or trailers from the start to the intermissions. Same time spent in the theater and same money for them. Well, here's the problem, Eduardo. I don't know if it would be the same money for them because they would know, the advertisers would know that less people will be in their seats because a lot of them will be out doing the concession stand, going to the bathroom, all that kind of stuff. But and besides, instead of 25 minutes to a half hour of ads, it's only, you know, a 5, maybe at most 7-minute break. But listen, I'd be all for that. You know, have 3 or 4 trailers before a movie, not 7, 8, 9, 10, but 3 or 4 trailers before a movie, and then show a few more trailers during intermission for people who stay in their seats and stuff like that. Gives you a break, lets them put on more things, same amount of time in the theater, doesn't add anything. Sounds like seriously, it sounds like it makes common sense to me. I mean, you'd have to work on how it would actually play out. But in principle, I think the idea is pretty solid. All right, where are we at here? Joe Byram writes, I watched the lead of Battle Angel this week. I watched the lead of Battle Angel this weekend. I don't know what the lead of Battle Angel is. Oh, you probably meant Alita Battle Angel. I have a feeling, Joe, you're probably trying to use voice transcription, and instead of hearing you say Alita, I heard you say the lead of. I watched Alita Battle Angel this weekend. It wasn't an awesome movie, but it was a good movie. It was good enough that by the end, I wanted to see a sequel. Yeah, again, I think the movie has its issues, and I think the movie has its problems. But overall, I found it to be pretty damn enjoyable. Look, there was a number of story, narrative, script issues, blah, blah, blah. But it was a fun movie. The most important thing is it had a character we really liked. The lead character was somebody we instantly had empathy for and we emotionally attached to, and it was a great character, Alita. And once you've done that, you've done half the work. If you can get the audience attached to the character, then you've done the work, and that's what I liked most about that movie. The action was fantastic. Visual effects were great. Story and script issues, yes, but overall I thought it was pretty enjoyable. It'll be interesting to see if Disney decides to do a sequel or not. Brandon Blake writes, I love John Favreau as a director, but I think he's underrated as an actor. He's hilarious, and man, he can nail an emotional beat too. Cheeseburgers, you. Oh yeah, I've always liked John Favreau as an actor. I mean, really, that's what he was known for most, is being an actor. I think he's very good. And if you haven't seen Chef, I think he's terrific in Chef. So go check that out as well. I mean, yeah, he does some nice stuff in the MCU. I like him as Hap. I do. But, I mean, that's not his finest work. But in a lot of his other movies, he is. So, yeah, I really do like him as an actor. Joe Byram writes, that should have been Alita Battle Angel. Don't worry about it, Joe. I got you. I figured it out. You're probably using the voice dictation thing. James Claceman writes, own one, rent one, remove one from movie history, Con Air, The Rock, Face Off. Well, I like all of them, but I love The Rock. So The Rock is own one. I really love Face Off, so that's rent one. I really enjoy Con Air, but it falls behind those other two, so if I have to, I guess Con Air is the one to go. Snake Jerusalem writes, does Hobbs and Shaw work as a 100% standalone movie? Yeah. I mean, it's like a number of other movies. You'll get a little bit more out of it if you've seen the previous Fast and Furious movies, particularly the ones involving The Rock and Jason Statham. But honestly, Chris Carr has never seen a Fast and Furious movie. She's never seen one of them, never been interested in them. And she went in with me to watch Hobbs and Shaw. She totally got what was going on, no problem. It absolutely works as a standalone movie, no problem. Lone Wolf X6 writes, hey John, sorry I disappeared for a bit. Life things happen, but I'm back. Just wanted to say thanks for helping out with my hard times. Well, no problem, Lone Wolf. It's good to have you back. And it's always great that's one of the things I love about the film fan community, man, is that the film fan community provides us a place to get a little bit of an oasis away from the hard times, helps us gain perspective, just refreshing our mind a little bit so we can go back in and deal with the stuff that's going on in our lives. That's why I love the movies. That's why I love the film fan community. And it's always good to have you here, Lone Wolf. So it's good to have you. All right. Owen Lanning writes, I'm moving to LA in the next month and was curious if you had any tips on making the move. Love the show. Well, thanks so much. My big thing when I moved into LA, and I was moving to LA for the first time, I thought, I want to live right in Hollywood. So I did. Not the best place to live. Hollywood is not the best place to live. So I would recommend, town like parts of greater LA, towns like Glendale, towns like Burbank, where I live, that I really enjoy, Pasadena, things like that. I wouldn't go way out on the west side. It's just really expensive, like Santa Monica. It's beautiful stuff over there, but yeah, I would recommend moving into places like Pasadena, Glendale, Burbank, things like that. Really good places to live. You're close to all the action too. It's pretty good. Enjoy and have a safe move, my friend. All right, R Squared Games writes, what two actors would you like to see work together that haven't done so already? For me, it's Daniel Day-Lewis and Denzel, or DiCaprio and The Street Monster. I mean, those are all good. I mean, honestly, just take any of the top actors of all time and put them together. For me, it would be the guy that I consider to be the greatest actor of all time, and probably my favorite actor of all time. So that would be Daniel Day-Lewis, who is the GOAT, undisputed champion. Daniel Day-Lewis is the GOAT. And Russell Crowe is actually my favorite actor. So I would love to see those two guys working together. Richard Karate writes, will you lose your geek mind and nearly wet yourself if you see Palpatine with his lightsaber out, ready to fight in the next Rise of Skywalker trailer? Yeah, not as much as much as I would if it was Luke pulling out a lightsaber, getting ready to go into battle. You show Luke pulling out a lightsaber, I will wet myself, crap myself, vomit, pass out, break everything you can possibly happening to a human being going through extreme emotional circumstances. That's what's going to happen to me. Hell, you show the next trailer Luke Skywalker pulling out a lightsaber, which isn't going to happen, but you show in the next Star Wars trailer, which I believe is coming at D23, Luke Skywalker pulling out a lightsaber, I'm going to pull a Homelander. I'm going to run to the top of the nearest building and soup goop over the entire city. That's what I'm going to do. That's going to be me. Are you happy that I painted that image in your head now? Let it sit there. I'm going to stand up on the tallest building I can find and soup goop over the entire city. That's how excited I will be. But no, it'll be pretty cool to see the Emperor doing it too, just not as much as Luke. All right, Harry Mudd writes, anyone see Pedro I've never pronounced his name right, Almodovar's movies? My absolute favorite must be Matador from 1986. I've seen a couple of his films, not a ton of them, okay? But my favorite of his has to be Volver, which had Penelope Cruz. That's a really sweet one. I like it. It's funny. It's insightful. It's got a good emotion to it, blah, blah. That's actually my favorite one of his. But I have to admit, I haven't seen a ton of his. But Volver is one. If you haven't checked that one out, check that one out. Richard Karate writes, I remember the chat you guys had regarding who should direct Avengers 5, and you guys were discussing Peyton Reed, Ryan Coogler, Joss Whedon, and Taika Waititi. I think J.J. Abrams should have a crack at it. I'm not sure, Richard. I mean, I like J.J. Abrams as a director. I love what he did with The Force Awakens. I really, really do. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in Star Wars Episode 9. That said, I don't know that JJ's a good fit for an Avengers movie. I really don't. I think he's a good director. And don't get me wrong, were they to announce tomorrow that J.J. Abrams, or at D23 they announced that J.J. Abrams is going to be directing Episode 9 or Avengers 5, I'll go, cool. He's a good director. That's the most important thing. So I'll be down with it. I'm totally down with it. But that said, I also don't see him as the best fit for an Avengers movie. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Wouldn't be my first choice, but I'd be down with it. If they announced he was doing it, I would be down with it. That's an interesting thought, Richard. All right. Alan Valley writes, who's the better Spock? Ethan Peck from Star Trek Discovery or Zach Quinto? Ooh, well, here's the thing. Zachary Quinto plays Spock a little bit more like the traditional Spock. Now remember, Spock is half human, half Vulcan, right? The traditional Spock is very, very much Vulcan with a little bit of his human side influencing him. He looks like he's completely Vulcan. He acts very, very Vulcan with a little bit of the human influence, even though he's half and half. And Quinto plays a little bit more of the human side. The Spock we get with Ethan Peck really does show a character who is a child of both worlds. He is half human. And he plays Spock like a guy who is half human, half Vulcan, but he leans Vulcan. Whereas the other iterations of Spock are like totally Vulcan with a little bit of his human influence. Ethan Peck's Spock is very much half human, half Vulcan, and he leans Vulcan. He's chosen to be Vulcan, he leans Vulcan, but has a much stronger part of his humanity because he is both human. It makes it for an interesting question. I'm going to lean towards Zachary Quinto, but I do love the Ethan Peck iteration of it. I do, although I lean towards Zachary Quinto. Chris Feldman writes, classic horror movies, Child's Play, and Disney animation Aladdin seem to get remade more than other genres, i.e. romantic comedies. Any theory why? Well, listen, there are a lot of genres that get a lot of remakes. But, I mean, Child's Play is a very popular IP. It's a very popular name. It's a very recognizable IP. Aladdin is a very recognizable IP. And stuff like that. Plus, you're going from animation to live action, and I don't underestimate just how much other genres get remade as well. Take a closer look at that, Chris. But also keep in mind just the overall popularity of the IP. How recognizable is it? Because that's part of the thing that makes them attractive to do for studios. Murray Reich writes, do you remember the 1990s era Disney logo with the intro music and just the blue screen, with the one with 2D castle with blue background? Yep. I actually got a kick out of that when I watched classic Disney movies on home VHS. You know, honestly, Murray, one of the cool... the Academy is making a museum, right? It's kind of like a Hall of Fame. Those should all have reels with the major studios and what their opening logos would look like. Universal's got some classic ones. Paramount's got some classic ones. And Disney's gone through its own iterations as well. And it's really cool just seeing that stuff. It really is. As a matter of fact, I'm a season pass holder for Universal Studios Hollywood. It's really cheap. But one of the attractions there, you go into it and they show you like all the various iterations of the Universal logo, right? And how it comes into screen. And it's really fascinating. It's interesting Hollywood history. So just like the one you're pointing out. Harry Mudd writes, Doc Martin is a great English medical comedy drama show. Never heard of it. I mean, obviously it's a UK show, which I'm not familiar with, but that sounds interesting. Murray, when I think of Doc Martens, I just think of the boots the skinheads used to wear. Murray Reich writes, Solo was very good, but I would rather a different type of Star Wars movie focusing on something else. I'm in complete agreement, Murray. I thought the movie was very good. It's a wonderful, fun space adventure movie. I had a very good time with it. But I just don't see there being a compelling argument to do another one. Like if I'm a studio exec, I just don't see it. I agree with you. Go in different directions because I'm tired of covering ground we've already covered in Star Wars. I've been saying this for like 5 years. Move forward. It's a vast, vast galaxy and universe. Please start exploring other parts of it. That's where I'm at. All right. Edwin Martinez writes, Hi, John. For classic films, try the Egyptian Theater. Oh, my friend, I've been to the Egyptian a number of times. I really have. And you're right. They do a lot of really good stuff there. It's a little out of the way for me, but it's a wonderful, if you're in Hollywood, got to go to the Chinese, but I also recommend checking out the Egyptian Theater. There's a lot of history in there. Royce Freeman writes, How can let you legitimately tell, probably didn't mean to put the word let. How can you legitimately tell if a filmmaker is setting up a plot just to justify brutal violence or if it is just a part of the story? Well, I mean, it all comes down to, look, you can never know what's in a filmmaker's head, right? All you can judge is if there's stuff of real brutal violence. And look, I'm all for real brutal violence. Why? Because movies are experiential things. And if brutal violence helps elicit a certain experience out of us as the audience that the director's going for, then use it. If sexuality is used to bring out a certain experience and emotion in it, then use it. If a joke brings out the experience that the director wants, then use it. If a deep conversation brings out, I'm all for all of it. Movies are experiential things. The only thing that we as an audience can do is, okay, when they use sexuality, when they use brutal violence, when they use this or use that or use whatever, did it play to the movie? Did it make sense? Did it give that angle or dimension of the movie experience to this movie? If it did, great. If it doesn't, then that's when we call it gratuitous. That's when we start using the word gratuitous. So whether the plot is set up just to justify brutal violence, that's not the right question. The question is, does the brutal violence elevate the movie? Does the brutal violence or the sexuality or the drug use or the whatever, does that stuff in the movie elevate the movie and the experience of the movie? If it does, great. If it doesn't, then it becomes gratuitous, just like anything else could be. So that's the question I would ask, Royce. That's the question I would ask, rather than trying to get into the director's head. All right. Calvin, we just got a few minutes left here, guys. Calvin Blackdeer writes, 1 of 4. Mr. Wayne, Clark Kent, Daily Planet. I love this scene. Love this scene in Batman vs. Superman. What's your position on the Bat Vigilante in Gotham? Civil liberties are being trampled on in your city. Good people living in fear. Don't believe everything you hear, son. I've seen it, Mr. Wayne. He thinks he's above the law. The Daily Planet criticizing those who think they're above the law feels hypocritical, wouldn't you say? Considering every time your hero saves a cat out of a tree, you write a puff piece editorial about an alien that could burn the whole place down. Most of the world doesn't share your opinion, Mr. Wayne. Maybe it's the Gotham City in me. It's hard. It's had a bad history of freaks dressed as clowns. So first of all, Calvin, thank you for supporting the channel on that level. That's really generous of you to put that in. Dude, I could sit here and just read that entire scene all day. I love that scene. Having Bruce and Clark face to face, figuring out who each other is and all that kind of stuff. It's a brilliant scene. One of the best scenes in the movie, and it's not an action scene. A lot of times with movies like this, I gotta say, Calvin, my favorite moments aren't the scenes with the big explosions and whatever. It's with a couple of characters just sitting down and talking to each other. You know, that's why a Tom Hooper's movie, The King's Speech, which won the Best Picture at the Academy Awards a few years ago. That's why I love that movie so much. The best scene in that movie is two guys, the two lead characters, sitting down in a room in two chairs facing each other. That had to be like a 10-minute conversation of just two of them talking. And it was the best scene of the movie. I loved it. These two, Batman versus Superman, it's a scene in this reception where two of them are just standing there face to face having a conversation. Avengers Infinity War, it's Thor sitting down talking to the character Rocket, talking to Rocket. Best scene of the movie to me. There's a lot of times at these scenes when great dialogue is employed that actually makes them the best part of it. Everybody go, woo, and Thor showed up in Wakanda, and that's a great scene. Oh, when the portals open, the big battle happens, and that's a great scene. But I find a lot of times with these movies, it's the scenes where the dialogue makes it happen. That's the stuff that gets my blood pumping the most. And that scene, Calvin, is one of the great examples of it. I love that scene so much. Thanks for bringing it up and sharing it. All right. Jeremy Sneed writes, it took all 8 episodes of The Boys to figure out Butcher's wife in The Boys was my Flash crush, Pabby. Oh, that's right. The girl who dated Flash. Spivot. Chantel Van Satin is the actress's name. I'll never forget again. You know what? I knew I recognized her, but that's not who I thought it was. I thought, I thought it was the woman who played The Rock's ex-wife in San Andreas. That's who I thought it was at first. I'm forgetting that actress's name too, but you see her all over the place, and I like her a lot too, but you're right. That was her. I totally forgot about that. Chantel Van Satin. There you go. Thank you for sharing that, man. All right. Next up, Lone Wolf X6 writes, Wanda is super powerful. Almost killed Thanos in Endgame. She would have won if not for the fire. Maybe, maybe not. We don't know that for sure. Then you include she killed Vision. Of course, Vision was letting her do it. And fought Thanos with 5 stones at one-handed. Amazing. Yeah, and again, I then start to worry a little bit, right? Because I worry that Kevin Feige is allowing himself to get sucked into this thing about everybody is so super powerful. And now what? Look, while the fight between her and Thanos was great, and the fight between Captain Marvel and him was great, and the fight between Doctor Strange and him was great, and the fight between Tony Stark and Thanos was great, it's all great, but at some point, you got to put caps, and I don't mean Cap as in Captain America, you got to put caps on power levels, or else it becomes just another hero, right? Like, you played it off like Thanos is the ultimate threat in the galaxy. Okay. But now this person can beat Thanos, and now that person can beat Thanos, and now that person can beat Thanos, and that person almost beat Thanos, and it's like, well, I mean, come on. I mean, I get it. You're trying to put other characters over, but you don't have to put them over by saying all of a sudden everybody can beat Thanos. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, you can't. Again, one of the great lines in Infinity War is when Wanda comes into the battlefield, and she takes out one of the big, vehicles, and Denai looks over and she goes, how come she hasn't been down here this whole time? I mean, that was one of the great lines, right? But yeah, they're definitely playing up how powerful she is. All right, guys, we are out of time now. I'm just going to go through to see if there are any bigger super chats that I should get to before we end up today's show. Another Skywalker sends in a very big super chat. Thank you, Another Skywalker, for supporting the show on that level, man. And Another Skywalker writes, hey, John, I know you're a huge Star Wars fan, and my question is for you and your co-host. So unfortunately, our co-hosts aren't here anymore. But would you choose to be a powerful Sith Lord or a powerful Jedi, and why? Okay. I've been asked this question before, Another Skywalker. I have. And again, thank you for supporting the channel on that level, man. And I'm just one of those guys. I'm Jedi. I'm totally Jedi. So, like, the big question when me and all my friends were starting to play Star Wars Old Republic, the World of Warcraft variation, the MMORPG, a lot of my friends were, I'm going to play Sith. I want to play Sith or one or the other. I want to play, and everybody wants to play Sith when they have a chance. And that's cool and all. But Jedis are Jedis, you know? To me, it's Jedi all the way. Jedi all the way over Sith, 100%. They're the more interesting characters. As Yoda said, the dark side is not stronger, quicker, more seductive, easier, sure. But they're not. The dark side is not more powerful than the light side, as Master Yoda pointed out. So yeah, for me, man, I got a lot of my friends that would hear that question and easily say Sith in a heartbeat. But me, I'm a Jedi, like my father before me. I'm just kidding. My father was not a Jedi. And yeah, so there. All right, guys, we're going to end at that. For everybody else who sent in a question, do not worry. Your questions get answered in a companion video a little bit later today. Now, some of you may notice that there was no companion video yesterday. Reason for that is when I gathered them up, I realized there was only about enough for like 10 minutes worth of questions. So what I'm going to do is take yesterday's leftover questions and today's leftover questions. Today, I'm going to put them together and make one companion video this afternoon. Keep your eyes open for that. That's coming a little bit later this afternoon. Listen, guys, I want to say, if you're watching the show right now, send in a happy birthday message to Ray. Ray Ora, who does a lot of the graphics. He, of course, made this graphic for us today. He makes all the main thumbnail graphics for the segments and for the main shows. He does a great job, and it is his birthday today. Make sure you say happy birthday to my brother-in-law, Ray. I'm sure my wife's brother, I'm sure he'll appreciate that a great deal. Special thanks to Aaron Cummings, who is here, Chris Carr, who is here. Special thanks to all of you guys who sent in super chat questions because you gave us fun things to talk about, and you supported the channel at the same time while you're doing it. And a special thanks to all of you for being here and being part of the film fan community. Listen, guys, the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow. Make sure you come back and join me for that as we head into the final day of the week, our Friday. And I hope you guys have had a great week already so far. That will do it for me for now, guys. Thanks so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.